Chapter 1574. It was extremely fast in all aspects. With a swoosh, the mountain sea secret realm turned into a dazzling stream of light and crashed into the mountain sea scripture. At the same time, the mountain sea secret realm also shattered the void and turned into a ray of light that shot toward the Hichu Luo Shu. During this process, the attacks of countless experts also followed closely behind. The terrifying aura suppressed the surrounding void and shattered large pieces of the void, and the death aura in Murong Yu's heart grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, Murong Yu even had the thought of turning around and fleeing. If the attacks of tens of thousands of peerless experts came crashing down, even if Murong Yu was trapped within the He Tu and the Book of the Luo, he would still be blasted to smithereens by the overflowing damage. However, the reason why Murong Yu didn't leave was that he didn't want to give up the Mountain Sea Scripture. Moreover, although the attacks of those peerless experts were fast, they were still some distance away from the Mountain Sea Scripture. If he could seize this opportunity, Murong Yu could easily teleport away after collecting the Mountain Sea Scripture. Everyone attack. In the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong Yu pulled 1,500 Primal Chaos Ancestor Realm Fierce Beasts to his side and ordered them to attack at the same time. Therefore, an extremely terrifying attack rushed out of the Hichu Luo Shu and strangled the terrifying power of the thousands of peerless experts. Although more than 1,000 fierce beasts couldn't be compared to thousands of Primal Chaos Ancestor Realm Fierce Beasts. However, Murong Yu didn't rely on these fierce beasts to fight against those people. He just needed them to slightly block the terrifying attacks that came crashing over. Even if it was only for a moment, it was enough. Rumble, the power of 1,500 Primal Chaos Ancestor Realm Fierce Beasts, was not weak. Although they were directly shattered, they also stopped the attacks of the other party. Moreover, the attacks of the 1,500 fierce beasts were still coming out continuously. Therefore, although the surging power of the other party was constantly annihilating the power of these fierce beasts, their speed was naturally slowed down. However, the Mountain Sea Scripture was getting closer and closer. Swoosh! In a flash, the Mountain Sea Scripture had turned into a stream of light and rushed into the Hichu Luo Shu. Teleport. Just as the Mountain Sea Scripture was teleported into the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong Yu immediately activated the teleportation function of the Hichu Luo Shu. Because the space near the He Tu and the Book of the Luo was not attacked, the teleportation of the He Tu and the Book of the Luo was not disrupted. With a swish sound, He Tu and Luo Shu disappeared on the spot. Rumble. In the next moment after the He Tu and the Book of the Luo disappeared, a terrifying power had already destroyed the original location of the He Tu and the Book of the Luo. Even the void was annihilated. It should be Murong Yu. He took the Mountain Sea secret realm away. At this moment, how could the crowd not know what was going on? Furthermore, they were beginning to suspect that Murong Yu was behind the Pink Morning incident. However, all of these were just guesses. They had no evidence to prove all of this. Origin Yuan Holy Empire, Phantom Mountain Range. Murong Yu stepped out of the void. Looking at the familiar surroundings, Murong Yu was completely relieved. In the depths of the Phantom Mountain Range was the headquarters of one of the 10 great holy lands of the human clan, the Infernal Society. It was absolutely safe here. Ever since Murong Yu had decided to move the Mountain Sea secret realm away, the first thing he had considered was to place it here. After all, even people from the true Martial Temple and other holy lands did not dare to act presumptuously here. Now that Murong Yu was the enemy of the entire world, he could only borrow the power of the Infernal Society. Although it was not what he wanted, there was no other way now. Retrieving the Mountain Sea secret realm required a large amount of the Mountain Sea Scripture's origin energy. However, retrieving the Mountain Sea secret realm consumed a negligible amount of origin energy. Therefore, Murong Yu found a random place in the Phantom Mountain Range and released the Mountain Sea secret realm. Rumble, after it was released, the Mountain Sea secret realm began to expand. However, it did not cause much damage to the surrounding environment. This was because it only expanded the void. After the expansion of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm was completed, the surrounding void quickly returned to normal. From afar, the world here was exactly the same as before. If one did not check carefully, one would not know that there was an additional Mountain Sea Secret Realm here. Then, Yu entered the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. At this time, the Mountain Sea Secret Realm was exactly the same as before. The people inside did not know that they had been moved. There was no difference at all. The entrance and exit of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm were also fine. However, Yu still instructed Duan Muqing and the others not to let Shangzhen's people leave the Mountain Sea Secret Realm for the time being. After making arrangements, Yu left the Mountain Sea Secret Realm again. Let's go and take a look at the Infernal Society. Since he had already appeared in the Phantom Mountain Range, if he left without making a trip to the Infernal Realm, Yu really did not regard the Infernal Realm as a sect anymore. Therefore, Yu entered the Infernal Realm. However, there was no one else in the Infernal Realm other than him. Yu Yangjia and the others did not know where they had gone. Could it be that they are all up to something? Yu suddenly remembered that when Yu Yangjia had appeared to intimidate him, he had said that he was just passing by. At that time, Yu did not think much of it, but now it seemed that they were all up to something. Of course, Yu did not have any dissatisfaction or rejection in his heart about all of this. They did not know Yu, but it did not mean that Yu was unsociable. Yu really did not have time to spare. After seeing that there was no one in the Infernal Realm, Yu did not stay, so he left the Infernal Realm. Then, under the lead of the big black dog, he flew toward the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm. The Heavenly Demon Secret Realm was located in the southernmost part of the human territory, bordering the demon territory. According to legend, the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm did not exist in the past. The place where the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm existed was only a wilderness in the past. Later, in the area where the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm was located, an earth-shattering battle occurred. As for who was in the battle, no one knew. Even those who knew did not reveal it. However, after that battle, the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm appeared. Then, after countless years of evolution and development, the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm became what it was today. Ferocious beasts ran rampant inside, and it was full of danger. Of course, there were also all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures inside, and even sacred weapons and so on. Legend has it that the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm evolved after one of them died in the battle. The person who died was called the Heavenly Demoness. It is said that she was surrounded and killed by many supreme martial artists. After she died, her physical body transformed into this Heavenly Demon Secret Realm. Yu and the big black dog appeared in a restaurant in the Heavenly Demon City, and some people were introducing the origins of the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm to those who had just arrived. Of course, whether these were true or not was a matter of opinion. This legend had been circulating for a long time. However, after countless years, not to mention obtaining the inheritance of the Heavenly Demoness, even a supreme martial artist, and so on had not been heard of. The big black dog smiled sheepishly. At that time, I was also curious and wanted to go in and see if that Heavenly Demoness really existed. If she was still here, I could have swallowed her physical body. Yu glared at the big black dog. Fortunately, they did not see the corpse of the Heavenly Demoness. Otherwise, if the big black dog had swallowed it, the big black dog would definitely have been stuffed to death. Supreme martial artists, even if they were supreme martial artists who had died countless years ago, their physical bodies still contained extremely terrifying power. How could it be something that the big black dog could swallow? However, Yu's heart skipped a beat. He had a feeling that little Z was definitely related to that Heavenly Demoness. It was very likely that she had received the inheritance of the Heavenly Demoness. Or perhaps she was the reincarnation of the Heavenly Demoness. Of course, this was only Yu's guess. As for the truth, it still needed to be verified. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering sound was suddenly heard. Then, heaven and earth shook, and it was as if the entire holy world was trembling violently. Plop! Many people in the restaurant were caught off guard and were directly thrown off their chairs. However, the shaking only lasted for a few breaths and soon stopped. Whoosh! 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 Right at this moment, one figure after another shot over from afar and appeared in the heavenly demon city. All of them were powerful saints, but these saints were in a very sorry state. Their clothes were tattered, their hair was disheveled, and their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with fear. What's going on? Many people, including Murong Yu, were shocked. This was because these people were not a small number, but came one after another. The heavenly demon secret land has changed, and the ferocious beasts suddenly went crazy, as if someone was commanding them, and they began to hunt us saints in groups. If we hadn't reacted quickly, I'm afraid we would have become food in the ferocious beasts' stomachs, a Saint King said with fear. The others nodded as well. They were also hunted by the ferocious beasts. The others haven't come out yet, and I'm afraid they're all done for. Even the chaotic ancestor, Saint Realm ferocious beasts are in groups. Damn it, how could this happen? A rank 1 chaotic ancestor saint cursed loudly, not caring about his demeanor as a peerless expert. Ferocious beasts rioting? Hearing this, many people's hearts skipped a beat, and their faces turned ugly. This was something that had never happened before. Murong Yu frowned slightly. This had never happened in the heavenly demon secret land, but it happened as soon as he arrived. Was it really a coincidence? Or was it really related to little Z? If it was just a coincidence, then the heavenly demon secret land had changed. If it was related to little Z, Murong Yu's heart sank. He felt that things might not go so smoothly this time. Chapter 1575. This time, the heavenly devil ferocious beast rampage lasted for an entire month. During this process, people escaped from the heavenly devil mystery realm one after another. All of them looked terrified, and no one came out in one piece. As time passed, no one came out of the heavenly devil mystery realm for many days. Everyone knew that those who did not escape must have died at the hands of the ferocious beasts. The heavenly devil mystery realm had always produced some precious natural treasures. Therefore, there were many people who entered it every day. According to the statistics of some observant people, the number of people who escaped this time was far less than 1 in 10,000 of the saints in the heavenly devil mystery realm. It could be said that there were heavy casualties. However, the ferocious beast rampage in the heavenly devil mystery realm also attracted the attention of many people in the holy world. Even a blind person could see that the ferocious beast rampage in the heavenly devil mystery realm this time was unusual. Perhaps some precious treasure was about to appear inside. Therefore, in just a short month, heavenly devil city was crowded with countless saints. The people who came later could not enter heavenly devil city at all, so they could only gather outside the city. Moreover, there were people coming in from all directions. Holy Lord, what should we do? At this moment, the big black dog had already shrunk to the size of an ordinary dog, and his body was also concealed with a special method. Otherwise, if people found out that he was a descendant of the heavenly dog clan, it would cause unnecessary trouble. Murong Yu frowned slightly, feeling somewhat displeased. It seemed that no matter where he went, there would be trouble. This time, Murong Yu originally wanted to quietly resolve the matter of Little Purple. However, now that there was such a big commotion, how could he remain quiet? No matter what the purpose of these people was, they would always cause trouble for Murong Yu's operation. Once Murong Yu's identity was discovered, Murong Yu might not be able to stay here. Moreover, Murong Yu had a feeling that the ferocious beast rampage in the heavenly devil mystery realm this time was related to Little Purple. Let's see what the situation is first, Murong Yu said in a deep voice. After all, he was only a saint ruler. If he was a chaotic ancestor saint, he might take the risk to enter the heavenly devil mystery realm to investigate. However, it was better to be careful now. Holy Lord, why don't we join a team? Perhaps we'll be able to get to the bottom of this by borrowing their strength, the large black dog continued. The team had only been established in the past few days. People from various sects and clans arrived at Heavenly Devil City. These forces had the advantage in numbers. Their own people could form teams to enter the Heavenly Demon Mystic Realm. However, there are also many rogue cultivators like Moronyu. Even the primal Chaos Ancestor Sage would not dare to enter the Heavenly Demon Mystic Realm alone. Therefore, some people spontaneously gathered together and recruited some powerful experts to enter the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm. A thought flashed through Murongyu's mind. The large black dog's suggestion wasn't bad. However, although Murongyu's battle prowess was strong, he was only a Saint King. No powerful team would need a Saint King like Murongyu. As for some Saint King level teams, Murongyu might as well go in himself. However, if he went in, it would be too conspicuous and would arouse the suspicions of some people. We're hiring. There's only one more peak stage Ancestor Sage left. A third-level Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage is leading a team and is aggressively recruiting. Walking in Heavenly Devil City, voices like these rose and fell. There were also some people who had already left Heavenly Devil City and were flying toward the Heavenly Demon Mystic Realm that had already quieted down. It's best to join a team of Primal Chaos Ancestor Sages, but that would be too conspicuous. It should be about time to join a team of Ancestor Sages. Murongyu thought as he walked toward the team that was recruiting peak stage Ancestor Sages. Murongyu walked to the front of the team with a large black dog and asked calmly, "Friend, are you guys recruiting?" There were only 9 people in this team, but every one of them was a peak stage Ancestor Sage. Moreover, they were indeed only missing one person. Nowadays, teams were usually 10 people. If there were too few people, their battle prowess would not be strong enough, and they would not be a match for powerful vicious beasts. And if there were too many people, the commotion would be too big, and it would be easy for the team to be wiped out in a sudden situation. Before this, some large teams have been wiped out. Therefore, the current teams were generally maintained at the scale of 10 people. Just you? Seeing Murongyu walk over, the 9 people in the team all looked over. When they saw that Murongyu was only a 5th-level Holy King, 8 of them could not help but frown slightly. But Youth with Long Eyes said disdainfully, "Friend, we are recruiting peak stage Ancestor Sages with your strength. To put it bluntly, it won't be good for you to join the team, and you will drag us down," a youth with thick eyebrows and big eyes said in a deep voice. However, although his words were unpleasant, it was also the truth, and he did not mean to look down on Murongyu. "That's right, friend, your strength is still a little low. If it was in the past, it would naturally be no problem to enter the Heavenly Demon Mystic Realm. But now, I suggest you don't go in. Otherwise, you will lose your life if you are not careful," a big guy said in a loud voice. Murongyu smiled bitterly in his heart. Other than the youth with long eyes who looked down on him, the other 8 might not look down on him, but his realm was still not enough to enter their eyes. Even if Murongyu's combat strength had reached the level of a low-level, chaotic Ancestor Sage. However, even if Murongyu told them the truth, would they believe him? Unless he revealed his identity. But then, he might as well go in himself. Go back to where you came from. Don't embarrass yourself here. Get out of here immediately. Otherwise, I will send you on your way. The youth who looked down on Murongyu suddenly shouted coldly, his expression extremely disdainful. He thought that Murongyu just wanted to rely on their team to enter the Heavenly Demon Mystery Land to get some benefits. Murongyu frowned slightly. He was quite displeased with this youth. However, in order to cover up, he still held back and did not flare up. "Although I'm only a Holy King, it is not a problem to deal with ordinary Ancestor Sages." "Ha ha!" Before Murongyu's voice fell, the youth with long eyes laughed loudly, and the others could not help but shake their heads, thinking that Murongyu was too full of himself. "Kid, do you think you are Murongyu? Do you have the combat strength to kill enemies above your level? Forget it. Since you're so funny, you better get out of here. Otherwise, I will send you on your way." The youth with long eyes had a look of disdain on his face. Murongyu could not be bothered to pay attention to this fool. He just looked at the youth with thick eyebrows and big eyes. Intuition told him that this person should be the captain. Immediately, Murongyu pointed at the youth with long eyes and said indifferently, "If I can defeat him, can I join this team?" The youth with thick eyebrows and big eyes immediately nodded. "Since you can defeat Wang Hai, it naturally shows that you have the strength of a peak ancestor sage. However, Wang Hai is very strong. Are you sure you want to challenge him?" At the same time, the youth with thick eyebrows and big eyes sent a voice transmission to Murongyu. "Wang Hai is narrow-minded, vengeful, and ruthless. You'd better not challenge him. Otherwise, if you fail, you will definitely end up in a tragedy." "Thank you for the reminder, but he will definitely lose," Murongyu said affirmatively. "Ha, kid, you are too funny. Do you really want to challenge me?" Wang Hai laughed in anger. He was really angry. A 5th-level Holy King was just an ant-like existence in his eyes. Now, he actually wanted to challenge him in public? This was definitely an insult to him. He had already decided to teach Murongyu a good lesson. Murongyu glanced at Wang Hai indifferently. "What? You don't dare to accept the challenge? Little bastard, you are courting death. Don't blame me for being ruthless." Wang Hai laughed sinisterly and took a step forward. However, the other people in the team shook their heads and took a few steps back. Originally, they wanted to remind Murongyu, but Murongyu was really too arrogant. Let him suffer a little first, then save him later. The youth with thick eyebrows and big eyes thought so. "Little bastard, make your move. I will let you have 3 moves." Wang Hai laughed sinisterly, his expression extremely disdainful. However, Murongyu shook his head. "I don't need 3 moves. I can defeat you in 1 move." Wang Hai looked up to the sky and laughed loudly, becoming more and more disdainful. "I'm going to make my move." Murongyu smiled faintly and suddenly took a step forward. However, he only took a step forward and did not make any move at all. However, Wang Hai suddenly screamed and fell to the ground with his back facing the sky. The onlookers were even more shocked to see that Wang Hai's face was pale and his 7 orifices were bleeding nonstop. What happened? Everyone was shocked. They either looked at Wang Hai or Murongyu, their faces filled with confusion. Murongyu smiled slightly. "I forgot to tell all of you that I am the Soul Saint." Soul Saint. Hearing this, the surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Murongyu with fear in their eyes. Just the words Soul Saint were enough to intimidate them. Moreover, they had seen how powerful Murongyu was. As a 5th-level Holy King, who could severely injure Wang Hai, a peak ancestral saint, other than the Soul Saint, who else had this ability? Therefore, everyone unconsciously took a few steps back and distanced themselves from Murongyu. Soul Saint. The young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes, and the other 7 people revealed a blazing light in their eyes. If there was a powerful Soul Saint in the team, then their overall strength would definitely double. "Friend, welcome to our team." The young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes extended his hand to Murongyu. "Hold on," Wang Hai shouted and walked toward Murongyu with an ugly expression. "Little bastard, what is the meaning of your sneak attack? If you have the ability, let's have a real fight." A cold, murderous intent flashed past Murongyu's brows. Just now, he had only taught Wang Hai a lesson and did not hurt him much. If this fool continued to cause trouble, he might have to kill him. Chapter 1576. Peng Huamao frowned slightly. Towards Wang Hai, he had never liked him in his heart. In fact, no one in the entire team liked this guy. Wang Hai was simply too arrogant. Moreover, he was arrogant and looked down on everyone. If he had not been in the team for some time and had not done anything too outrageous, Peng Huamao would have kicked him out of the team long ago. Peng Huamao was the young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was the leader of this team. "Wang Hai, that's enough." Peng Huamao finally could not help but scold him. Although Murongyu's realm was not very high, as a Soul Saint, his strength could definitely be ranked in the top 5 in the team. Most importantly, the Soul Saint had played a greater role than all of them combined at certain times. Hearing Peng Huamao's words, Wang Hai, who was rushing towards Murongyu, stopped. Murong Yu also noticed that there was a hint of fear in his eyes when he looked at Peng Huamao. Interesting, it seems that this ordinary-looking leader is not simple. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to suppress that arrogant and conceited Wang Hai. Murong Yu inwardly pondered. Except for him, everyone was a peak ancestor saint. But even if their realms were the same, their combat strength was different. It seemed that Peng Huamao's combat strength was stronger, and Wang Hai seemed to have suffered a loss in the hands of Peng Huamao. Little bastard, I'll give a leader face, but you must not fall in my hands, or I will make you beg for death. Wang Hai glared fiercely at Murong Yu, and then transmitted his voice to Murong Yu with resentment. Murong Yu, who was a 5th-level holy king, had defeated him, who was a peak ancestor saint, in public. This made him feel extremely humiliated, lost his dignity, and lost face. If Peng Huamao had not stopped him, he would have definitely killed Murong Yu. Because he did not think that Murong Yu was really strong, he just caught him off guard. A cold, killing intent flashed across Murong Yu's brows. If this Wang Hai still wanted to cause trouble for him, he absolutely wouldn't mind killing him. Brat, I didn't expect you to be a soul saint despite your ordinary appearance. I have a whole new level of respect for you. The big man, Li Haoqian, walked over and patted Murong Yu's shoulder with his fan-sized hand. The slap caused Murong Yu to grimace. If it wasn't for his strong physique, his shoulder would have been smashed by this guy who didn't know how to control his strength. All right, get ready. We can enter the heavenly demon mystery land. Jiang Wenxian, who had been silent all this time, said indifferently. Then she turned and left. It's like this. We've been in this team for a long time. This time, after hearing about the changes in the heavenly demon secret realm, we rushed over from other places. However, an accident happened some time ago, and one of our team members fell. So, Captain Peng Huamao introduced the team to Murong Yu. Murong Yu looked at Peng Huamao in surprise. He had thought that this team was just temporarily put together. He didn't expect it to be a team that had existed for a long time. No wonder they could tolerate this idiot Wang Hai. This time, although the heavenly demon secret realm has changed, a treasure that has never been seen before has appeared. It's called the Dragon Phoenix Flower. Dragon Phoenix Flower? Murong Yu asked with a face full of astonishment. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. Moreover, he didn't know that such a treasure had appeared in the heavenly demon secret realm. In fact, Murong Yu didn't even know what such a treasure was. However, unlike Murong Yu, when the big black dog at Murong Yu's feet heard Peng Huamao's words, its eyes suddenly lit up. Obviously, it knew what the Dragon Phoenix Flower was. Seeing Murong Yu's reaction, Peng Huamao couldn't help but be surprised. Did you not come here because of the Dragon Phoenix Flower? Murong Yu shook his head in confusion. He really didn't come here because of this. Then you don't know about the Dragon Phoenix Flower? Peng Huamao asked again as if he couldn't believe it. Murong Yu only nodded again. This time, Peng Huamao was speechless. After a pause, he began to introduce it to Murong Yu. The Dragon Phoenix Flower was actually a kind of flower. As for where this came from, no one knew. However, the Dragon Phoenix Flower had a heaven-defying ability. After consuming the Dragon Phoenix Flower, one could cultivate the cultivation techniques and battle skills of the Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan. It should be known that regardless of whether it was the Phoenix Clan or the Dragon Clan, their cultivation techniques and battle skills required their bloodline to be cultivated. For example, if one didn't have the bloodline of the Phoenix Clan, they couldn't cultivate the cultivation techniques and battle skills of the Phoenix Clan. Even if one succeeded, they would only have the form but not the essence. They didn't have such power at all. It was the same for the Dragon Clan and many other sacred clans. However, some of the sacred clans' cultivation techniques and battle skills were extremely powerful. Many people coveted their battle skills, but it was useless without their bloodline. Now, the appearance of the Dragon Phoenix Flower solved the problem of all the saints except for the Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan. As long as they obtained the Dragon Phoenix Flower, they could cultivate the cultivation techniques and battle skills of the Phoenix Clan and the Dragon Clan. However, the Dragon Phoenix Flower appeared in the heavenly demon secret realm, but it wasn't everywhere. It would appear randomly, and whether one could encounter it depended on luck. A peak Chaos Ancestor Saint might not necessarily be able to obtain it. A first stage Saint might not necessarily be unable to obtain it. It was precisely because of this that the Dragon Phoenix flower was now at a sky-high price. For people like Peng Hua Mao, they might not necessarily consume the Dragon Phoenix flower for themselves. They just wanted to sell the Dragon Phoenix flower in exchange for what they needed. After all, they all wanted to break through to the Chaos Ancestor Saint realm. However, this realm wasn't something that could be broken through just because they wanted to. How many people were stuck at the peak of the Ancestor Saint realm for their entire lives? Therefore, their team's mission was to go in and find the Dragon Phoenix flower. Hurry up and prepare. We'll enter the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm in half a day. After saying that, Peng Huamao left. What did Morong need to prepare? There was everything in the Hichu Luo Shu, so he just strolled around the Heavenly Demon City for a while. Then, he realized how precious the Dragon Phoenix flower was now. The lowest grade Dragon Phoenix flower was comparable to a Chaos Ancestor artifact. One had to know that there were a total of 9 grades of Dragon Phoenix flowers. In the legends, the highest grade Dragon Phoenix flower was said to be as valuable as a supreme artifact. One could imagine how precious these Dragon Phoenix flowers were. It was also because of this that many experts flocked to the secret realm. If they were lucky enough to obtain the highest grade Dragon Phoenix flower, it wouldn't be a dream to become rich overnight. Okay, is everyone ready? After half a day, everyone gathered at the original place. Then, they soared into the sky and flew toward the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm. Morong, you're bringing this pet in? Its cultivation level is so low. Don't get us in trouble. On the way, Wang Hai attacked Morong again. Woof! The large black dog was furious. Although he was only in the Ancestor Saint tier, he could swallow a peak Ancestor Saint in one gulp. Didn't he swallow a peak Ancestor Saint at the entrance of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm? Although Wang Hai was powerful, he was only on the same level as that Ancestor Saint. Morong glanced at Wang Hai and said indifferently, "Although he's just a dog, he's much stronger than some people." Woof, woof. The large black dog barked twice, a proud look on his face. Wang Hai, on the other hand, was fuming with anger. Didn't Morong say that he was inferior to a dog? Morong, who are you saying is inferior to a dog? Wang Hai was furious, and he couldn't help but attack. I didn't say you. Why are you taking it personally? Morong sneered. B****. Wang Hai's eyes were spitting fire, and he wanted nothing more than to slap Morong to death. However, at this moment, Peng Huamao glanced at him indifferently, and he suddenly calmed down. At least on the surface. Little bastard, when we enter the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm, it'll be your death. Wang Hai cursed in his heart, staring at Morong with resentment. Morong, don't get into a conflict with Wang Hai. This guy is ruthless. You've angered him time and time again, so he won't let you go. Be careful. At this moment, a woman's voice suddenly sounded in Morong's ears. Morong glanced at Jiang Wenxian in surprise. This woman looked cold on the surface, but it didn't seem to be true. Soon, everyone entered the Heavenly Demon Secret Realm. Be careful. The space here is extremely unstable and can collapse at any time. Morong controlled the rules of space and was extremely sensitive to space. As soon as he entered, he felt the difference in this space. You're just a saint ruler. We can't even feel anything strange, but you? As soon as Morong finished speaking, Wang Hai sneered. A look of astonishment appeared on Peng Huamao's face. He first glanced at Morong, then looked at the other petite yet fiery woman in the team. This woman was one of the 2 women in the team. Unlike the indifferent Jiang Wenxian, this woman was very enthusiastic. That's right, she had chatted quite a bit with Morong along the way. At this moment, Zheng Ro narrowed her eyes and sensed. Zheng Ro had a preliminary control of the rules of space. She was the person in the team who was the most sensitive to space fluctuations other than Morong. Morong noticed it on the way, but it was obvious that her control was extremely shallow. In Murong Yu's eyes, it wasn't worth mentioning. However, because they didn't have much interaction, Murong Yu didn't give her any pointers. He was only a saint ruler. Even if he knew, he couldn't give her any pointers. On the contrary, it would make people think that he was arrogant and ignorant. After sensing for a long time, Zheng Ro slowly opened her eyes. She first looked at Murong Yu in surprise, and then said, Murong Yu is right. This space is extremely unstable. However, the entire space shouldn't collapse. So, as long as we're careful and don't get sucked into the spatial turbulence, there won't be any danger. Hearing this, everyone looked at Murong Yu in surprise. Even Wang Hai was the same. However, Wang Hai was even more annoyed and jealous of Murong Yu. Chapter 1577. What's going on? Why do I feel a little hungry? Not long after entering the heavenly demon mystery realm, Murong Yu began to feel hungry. He hadn't felt this way for many epochs. In fact, after reaching the Anidia realm, Murong Yu had never felt hungry. Now that he was immortal and indestructible, he actually felt hungry? This was really strange. Large black dog, do you feel hungry? Murong Yu transmitted his voice to the large black dog. No. The large black dog immediately gave a clean answer. Just as Murong Yu was feeling gloomy, the large black dog continued. I ate a lot of vicious beasts on the way here, so I'm still full. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. He had asked the wrong person. However, the large black dog's next words made him feel strange. However, I seem to feel hungry here. What's going on? This didn't happen when we entered the heavenly demon mystery realm. The large black dog also felt hungry. Murong Yu's heart sank, and he observed the others. Previously, Murong Yu hadn't paid attention to Peng Hua Mao and the others. Now, he discovered that Peng Hua Mao and the others would swallow a pill every once in a while. Murong Yu, don't you feel hungry? Murong Yu was full of confusion. Just as he was about to ask, Zheng Ro came to his side and looked at Murong Yu as if she were looking at a monster. Murong Yu was stunned, and he immediately asked, Do you feel hungry too? I thought I was the only one who felt hungry. Ignorant and ignorant. At this moment, Wang Hai looked at Murong Yu with disdain. Apart from Wang Hai, everyone else looked at Murong Yu with strange expressions, as if Murong Yu was a monster. Murong Yu, didn't I tell you to prepare? Don't tell me you didn't prepare any Anidia pills. At this point, Peng Hua Mao suddenly slapped his thigh. I forgot to remind you. I thought you would feel hungry after knowing about the mutated sky demon secret realm. After Peng Hua Mao's explanation, Murong Yu finally understood what was going on. As long as the heavenly demon mystic realm mutated, it would feel hungry. As time passed, the saints would even starve to death. Here, they were no different from mortals. Previously, they had not seen Murong Yu swallow a fasting pill. They only thought that he had swallowed an extremely powerful fasting pill before entering the heavenly demon mystery land. After all, Murong Yu was a soul saint. With his status, it was normal for him to want to obtain some precious things. Zheng Ro was also curious if Murong Yu really had such a powerful medicinal pill, so she asked this question. However, he didn't expect that Murong Yu didn't know about this at all. Naturally, Murong Yu did not prepare any fasting pills. As a result, the expressions of Peng Hua Mao and the others turned somewhat ugly. Although they had prepared many fasting pills and medicinal herbs to refine them, they were still very weak. Who knew how long they would be here? If they gave them to Murong Yu, it would definitely shorten their time in the heavenly demon mystic realm. The longer they stayed, the lower their chances of finding the dragon phoenix flower. Peng Hua Mao pondered for a moment before saying, How about this? Wang Hai, refine some fasting pills for Murong Yu first. If we see any medicinal herbs to refine fasting pills along the way, we'll collect them as well. Murong Yu suddenly understood. This Wang Hai was actually an alchemist. No wonder he was so arrogant and still had a position in the team. In a situation like the heavenly demon mystic realm, if there was an alchemist in the team, their chances of survival and obtaining treasures would be much higher. Hearing this, Wang Hai smiled sinisterly and glanced at Mu Rongyu in disdain. He then said, "Captain, you know that alchemists like us can't refine pills at any time. Moreover, refining pills consumes a lot of energy. In order to ensure that we get the dragon phoenix flower, I've decided not to refine pills for the time being." Mu Rongyu narrowed his eyes slightly, but he didn't say anything. He wanted to see what kind of tricks this idiot Wang Hai could come up with. Moreover, he also wanted to see how this team was like. "Wang Hai, what do you mean? Mu Rongyu is one of us. Since you don't want to refine pills, then don't refine pills. Mu Rongyu, I'll give you a portion of my fasting pills." Zheng Ro glared at Wang Hai and shouted. Wang Hai smiled sinisterly. "It's not impossible for you to give me a portion of your fasting pills. However, who knows if we can hold on until we get the dragon phoenix flower? If something unexpected happens, and I don't have time to refine pills, we might starve to death here." Everyone's faces darkened, except for Wang Hai, who had a sinister smile, and Mu Rongyu, who had an indifferent expression. There was also the big black dog. At this moment, the big black dog simply lay on the ground and lowered his head. Don't look at how arrogant Wang Hai was right now. But later, he would be crying. "Wang Hai, we are a team. We must advance and retreat together," Captain Peng Huamao said in a deep voice. However, before he could finish speaking, Wang Hai had already interrupted him. "Captain, don't say any more. There are two choices now. One is to let Mu Rongyu leave this team. The other is to give him a portion of your fasting pills. In short, I will never refine pills for him. Moreover, I can't give him the pills I refine. Unless," after saying that, Wang Hai looked at Mu Rongyu and revealed a sinister smile. "Unless what?" The big Li Haoqian walked over and said in a thunderous voice. "Unless Mu Rongyu kneels down, kowtows to me, admits his guilt, and calls me grandpa 3 times, I might consider refining some fasting pills for him." Wang Hai looked sinisterly at Mu Rongyu. He had to torture Mu Rongyu to death today. "Wang Hai, you're going too far." Jiang Wenqian was angry. However, Wang Hai wasn't afraid of Jiang Wenqian. He was only afraid of the captain. In this environment, he wasn't afraid that Peng Huamao would kick him out of the team. Without an alchemist here, they wouldn't be able to go far. Ha ha! At this moment, Mu Rongyu, who had been silent all this time, laughed 3 times in a row. "Little bastard, what are you laughing at?" Wang Hai directly shed all pretense of cordiality and scolded. "Zheng Ro, you still have fasting pills and the pills needed to refine them, right? Can you give me some?" Mu Rongyu didn't even look at Wang Hai and said to Zheng Ro. Zheng Ro's heart moved, and she hurriedly handed a pill to Mu Rongyu. At the same time, she also took out a spatial treasure and handed it to Mu Rongyu. It contained a large amount of ingredients for refining fasting pills. Pills with 60% compatibility? Even low-grade pills like this only have 60% compatibility? Who refined this? Isn't this a waste of these ingredients? Mu Rongyu checked and then sneered. Everyone couldn't help but feel ashamed. These days, it wasn't easy to meet an alchemist, and it was even harder to meet a high-level alchemist. This was because the higher-ranked alchemists were all invited by the stronger teams. The supply couldn't meet the demand. Although their team wasn't bad, they definitely couldn't attract a high-level alchemist to stay. Therefore, they could only worship Wang Hai, this half-baked alchemist, as their ancestor. No matter how arrogant he was, they turned a blind eye to it. At the same time, everyone was somewhat expectant. This was because they had all sensed something from Mu Rongyu's words. Only 60% compatibility? Little bastard, if you have the ability, why don't you refine a fasting pill with a higher compatibility? Wang Hai laughed in anger, his eyes flashing with cold, killing intent. His patience with Mu Rongyu had reached its limit. What kind of alchemist is a pill with 60% compatibility? The Holy Master can casually refine pills with even higher compatibility, the large black dog said disdainfully as he yawned. The killing intent in Wang Hai's heart became even sharper. If I refine a higher compatibility pill, what will you do? Mu Rongyu didn't get angry, and only said indifferently, I'll take your surname. But if you can't refine it, what will you do? Forget it. If I had a descendant like you, wouldn't I be angered to death? If I can't refine it, you can do whatever you want with it. Yu waved his hand and ignored the angry Wang Hai. His hand reached out and grabbed the yin yang cauldron. This fasting pill was naturally not the fasting pills of the cultivation world. In the holy world, it was considered a high-level pill. However, to a pill saint like Yu, it was nothing. In the blink of an eye, the yin yang cauldron analyzed the prescription of the fasting pill. Then, Yu began to refine the pill. His alchemy ability was extremely powerful, and he wasn't afraid of others secretly learning from him. He started refining in front of Zheng Ro and the others. In the beginning, Wang Hai only sneered when he saw Yu start refining pills. However, he gradually stopped sneering. Soon, Yu stopped refining pills. The time was extremely short, and it didn't even take half an hour. With this method, he can refine a pill in such a short time. Wang Hai calmed down again and only sneered at Yu. He was already prepared to kill Yu. Zheng Ro and the others didn't have much expectations from Yu. After all, Yu's alchemy was really beyond their knowledge. Yu patted the yin-yang cauldron, and then an extremely rich medicinal fragrance emanated from the cauldron. Along with this incomparably rich pill fragrance, waves of pill halo also soared into the sky at the same time. Pill halo, Zheng Ro exclaimed. At the same time, they saw pills with pill halos shooting out of the yin-yang cauldron and finally being put into a jade bottle by Yu. A total of 100 pills. Impossible, Wang Hai roared angrily. This was because he had only refined 10 pills with the same amount, and they were all pills with 60% compatibility. However, Yu had not only refined more pills than him in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality. Chapter 1578. The fasting pills refined by Wang Hai only had a 60% compatibility, barely reaching the level of pill formation. Moreover, the pills were all different in shape and were dry and colorless. On the other hand, the fasting pills refined by Yu were all the same size. Moreover, they were round and plump. Just from the looks of it, these fasting pills were many times stronger than the pills refined by Wang Hai. These are fasting pills with a 90% compatibility? Hong Huamao excitedly took one of the pills in his hand, and then his whole body trembled. He was extremely excited. 90% compatibility. This was a pill that could only be refined by an alchemy grandmaster. Even though they were all peak ancestral sages, it was rare for them to see a pill with a 90% compatibility, let alone an alchemy grandmaster. After all, they were just itinerant cultivators. They really all have a 90% compatibility. Zheng Ro and the others also picked up the fasting pills and looked at them, and then they were also excited. They had never thought that they would be able to interact with an alchemy grandmaster, but now one had appeared in their team. They couldn't help but be excited. And the most exciting thing was that they might be able to break through to the primal chaos ancestral sage realm with Yu's help. 90% compatibility? An alchemy grandmaster? How is this possible? Wang Hai, who was originally arrogant, suddenly changed his expression. There was no longer any arrogance on his face, only a pale, bloodless face. If Yu was really an alchemy grandmaster, Wang Hai would die without a burial place, even if Yu didn't do anything. At this time, as long as Yu said a word, Wang Hai knew that Peng Huamao and the others would definitely kill him without hesitation. After all, he had relied on his identity as an alchemy grandmaster to abuse his power in the team all this time, and he had long been hated by everyone. Yu, are you really an alchemy grandmaster? Zheng Ro looked at Yu in disbelief, extremely surprised. The others also looked at Yu with their own eyes. Yu's heart skipped a beat. He felt that these people seemed to have a favor to ask of him. However, he didn't point it out and only nodded slightly. Therefore, Zheng Ro and the others were all excited. This time, Yu was even more certain of his guess. However, he only pretended not to know. Taking a deep breath, Peng Huamao looked at Yu with a serious expression and said in a deep voice, Yu, can I ask you for a favor? Yes, Peng Huamao was begging Yu. Although Murong Yu was only a 5th-level holy king, he was a soul saint. Just this point alone made them view Murong Yu as a saint on the same level as them. At this time, they also discovered that Murong Yu was an alchemy grandmaster. Even though Murong Yu was only a sage, his status as an alchemy grandmaster was definitely much higher than theirs. Therefore, Peng Huamao and the others were much more respectful towards Murong Yu. Captain, don't say that. If I can help, I will. After all, we are teammates. Murong Yu laughed. It's like this. We are all stuck at the peak of the Ancestor Saint realm. If there are no opportunities, we will be stuck in this realm and unable to break through. However, not long ago, we obtained a pill formula. There's a pill that can increase our chances of breaking through. Now, we have collected almost all the pills needed for alchemy. However, that pill requires an alchemy grandmaster to refine. So, listening to Peng Huamao's words, Wang Hai's eyes were full of jealousy. He had joined this team not long ago, but he never knew that there was such a pill formula in the team. He didn't know, which meant that Peng Huamao and the others didn't trust him at all and didn't believe that he could refine those pills. However, Murong Yu had only joined this team for less than half a day, and he had already won their trust. The jealousy in Wang Hai's heart was about to burn him up. Murong Yu frowned slightly. When he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Zheng Ro. Murong Yu, we will definitely reward you enough. I hope you can help us. The others also looked at Murong Yu with hopeful expressions. They all thought that Murong Yu frowned because they didn't pay enough. However, they were all wrong. Murong Yu couldn't help but shake his head and smile faintly. Everyone, what kind of person do you think I, Murong Yu, am? I'm frowning not because of your reward, but because it's just a small matter. We are all teammates. When you prepare the medicinal herbs, I will refine the pills for you for free. Peng Huamao and the others were peak ancestor saints and often trained in various major mystic realms, so they definitely had some wealth. If it was in the past, Murong Yu might have asked for their reward. But now, with Murong Yu's wealth, he naturally didn't care about their reward. Everyone was overjoyed and thanked Murong Yu one after another. Only Wang Hai stood alone at the side, his eyes full of resentment and his expression lonely. At this time, Peng Huamao and the others had intentionally or unintentionally ignored them. Okay, let's continue. After solving the matter of the fasting pills, Murong Yu and the others set off again. However, unknowingly, everyone had already regarded Murong Yu as the center of attention. In the depths of the heavenly demon mystic realm, there was an extremely magnificent palace surrounded by dense demonic qi and black fog. A devastatingly beautiful woman whose entire body was shrouded in black mist sat on the main seat. If Murong Yu was here and saw this woman's appearance, he would definitely exclaim in surprise. Too similar, they were too similar. They were exactly the same. Suddenly, the woman frowned slightly and exclaimed in surprise. She waved her right hand lightly, and an image suddenly appeared in front of her. In the image, there were 10 people and a large black dog. It was Murong Yu and the others. Large black dog, you escaped last time, and now you're here again. That woman should be with him, right? If I swallow that woman, I might be able to recover my peak strength. The beautiful woman thought in her heart and then sneered. Stop! Just as the beautiful woman was looking at Murong Yu, who had been flying, suddenly trembled and a strange feeling surged in his heart. It was as if someone was secretly spying on him. What's wrong? Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Murong Yu suspiciously. Did you notice anything unusual? Murong Yu asked. However, everyone, including the large black dog, shook their heads. They didn't feel anything at all. You're making a fuss about nothing. You're so afraid of death. If I were you, I would have left the heavenly demon mystic realm long ago. Wang Hai, who was at the side, made sarcastic remarks and kept mocking Murong Yu. Shut up. Murong Yu's expression turned cold. He didn't have time to pay attention to this fool. The feeling of being spied on just now made him feel a sense of crisis. Wang Hai felt a chill in his heart, and his desire to kill Murong Yu became even stronger. However, Morongyu wasn't sure if it was true or if it was just his imagination. He immediately shook his head and said, "It's nothing. I just felt that something was wrong." Peng Huamao laughed. "In the heavenly demon mystic realm, we're dancing on the tip of a knife. There's always something wrong. Morongyu, you're too careful." The others nodded and smiled. "Maybe." Morongyu shook his head and immediately continued on his way. However, he was much more careful. Boom! Peng Huamao sent a beast at the peak of the ancestor saint flying with a punch. At the same time, the others stopped fighting. This wasn't the first time they had fought. Wave after wave of ferocious beasts seemed to have found their group with a purpose. From the beginning of the ancestor saint to the current peak of the ancestor saint. In the past few days, they almost didn't stop fighting. Morongyu, have you noticed that the situation is a little strange? It seems that these ferocious beasts are specifically targeting us. Peng Huamao said with a solemn expression. They had entered this place not long ago. At that time, although they had encountered many ferocious beasts, they had all encountered them randomly. It wasn't like this at all. Moreover, what made their hearts heavy was that in certain specific places, there would always be groups of ferocious beasts at the level of the ancestor saint. In other words, these ferocious beasts were constantly forcing Morongyu and the others in a certain direction. Of course, Morongyu had also sensed the abnormalities. However, what he didn't know was whether all the people who entered the heavenly demon mystic realm were the same, or if it was just their team. If all of them were the same, it would be easy to deal with. However, if they were only targeting them, Morongyu suspected that they were targeting Little Z. He might have to separate from Peng Huamao and the others. After spending a few days together, except for Wang Hai, Peng Huamao and the others gave him a good feeling. It must be because there's one more person in our team that attracted the attention of the heavenly demon mystic realm. Wang Hai jumped out at this time and said. Morongyu nodded in agreement. I also feel that there's one more person in our team. In my opinion, why don't we kick Wang Hai out? Whoosh! Peng Huamao and the others looked at Wang Hai. Wang Hai was shocked. If he was kicked out of the team, he would undoubtedly die. He didn't want to die. Therefore, he awkwardly changed his words and said, maybe not. Pretend I didn't say that. Something is wrong. Let's observe. Once we find something wrong, we'll leave immediately. Morongyu pondered for a moment and continued to lead the team forward. Captain, stop. Look, is that a dragon phoenix flower? While flying, Zheng Ro suddenly exclaimed excitedly. Morongyu and the others were shocked and looked in the direction Zheng Ro was pointing. In their line of sight, a blood-red flower the size of a true dragon and a phoenix was swaying in the wind. That's strange. There was clearly nothing here just now. Morongyu was baffled. His divine sense had covered a large area around them. However, he didn't see a dragon phoenix flower before. Chapter 1579. This was the special characteristic of the dragon phoenix flower. Some people didn't even notice it when they stepped on it, but some people noticed at the moment they entered the heavenly demon's secret land. The key to discovering the dragon phoenix flower was not strength or cultivation realm, but opportunity and luck. When the opportunity came, one would naturally encounter the dragon phoenix flower. From afar, you could see the dragon and phoenix flowers blooming like fresh blood. Through the haze, they looked like dragons and phoenixes. This was the dragon phoenix flower? Morongyu was flabbergasted. Although it looked like a real dragon and a phoenix, the dragon phoenix flower didn't show any other special characteristics. It didn't have a strong aura. Other than the few special characteristics, it looked like an ordinary flower. Swoosh! While Morongyu was still in shock, a figure had already shot out and pounced on the blood-red dragon phoenix flower. There were no powerful beasts guarding the dragon phoenix flower. This was because the dragon phoenix flower's only function was to allow all saints except the dragon clan and the phoenix clan to cultivate the dragon clan and the phoenix clan's combat skills. To the beasts, it was not attractive at all. Wang Hai, what are you doing? In the blink of an eye, the figure had already plucked the dragon phoenix flower and kept it in his spatial treasure. That person was Wang Hai. Before entering the heavenly demon's secret land, they had an agreement. Once they found any treasure, they had to hand it over to the leader for safekeeping. After they came out, they would divide it equally. However, Wang Hai kept the dragon phoenix flower in his spatial treasure. Obviously, he wanted to take it all for himself. What am I doing? This dragon phoenix flower is equivalent to my reward. You have eaten a lot of fasting pills that I refined along the way. Wang Hai sneered. Bah, your fasting pills? One pill can only make you hungry for a day at most. Murong Yu's fasting pills can keep you hungry for at least 100 days. Who wants to eat your fasting pills? Jiang Wenxian was angry. Peng Huamao took a step forward and looked at Wang Hai. He said in a deep voice, Wang Hai, don't make a mistake. Otherwise, I'll kick you out of the team. Hearing this, Wang Hai sneered in disdain. Captain, I'm afraid you've been wanting to say this since early in the morning. Since that's the case, I'll withdraw now. I'm sure we'll meet again. No, I'm sure we'll never meet again. Before he finished speaking, Wang Hai turned around and flew away. He didn't have any feelings for this team to begin with. He just wanted to rely on the team to get some benefits. Now that he had obtained a dragon phoenix flower, he naturally did not want to continue staying here. With these dragon phoenix flowers, he could get a primal chaos ancestor sacred to help him break through to the primal chaos ancestor's sacred realm, or exchange it for a decent primal chaos ancestral artifact. If he followed the team, he would only get 1/10 of the benefits. Wang Hai, how dare you leave? Li Haoqian took a step forward and glared at Wang Hai. He could not help but want to attack. At the same time, the others also gathered around. Let him go. Peng Huamao, the team leader, said in a deep voice. Captain, Zheng Ro and the others looked at Peng Huamao in disbelief. However, Peng Huamao only shook his head. He was also furious, but he could not stop Wang Hai from leaving. Although he did not kill Wang Hai this time, the next time they met, they would be mortal enemies. Zheng Ro and the others still trusted Peng Huamao as their captain. Although they were puzzled and angry, they still did not stop Wang Hai from leaving. Peng Huamao, at least you know your place. After helping me break through to the primal chaos ancestor's sacred realm, I'll definitely guide you well. Wang Hai laughed and disappeared in a flash. From beginning to end, Murong Yu did not speak. Although he had joined the team for a few days, he still had no right to interrupt Wang Hai's betrayal. However, Wang Hai was no longer a member of the team. It was time for him to make a move. Did I say you could leave? Murong Yu took a step forward, his figure flickering as he disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Wang Hai. Wang Hai was shocked by Murong Yu's speed. His killing intent towards Murong Yu was extremely strong. He wanted nothing more than to slap Murong Yu to death. However, he was also quite apprehensive of Murong Yu's strength. Therefore, he did not think of killing Murong Yu when he left. Even if he wanted to kill Murong Yu, Peng Huamao and the others would stop him. According to his plan, he would leave the heavenly demon mystic realm first, then raise his realm before killing Murong Yu. Little bastard, I didn't find trouble with you, but you actually came to die. In that case, go to hell for me. Wang Hai laughed sinisterly, but he had already punched towards Murong Yu. Didn't anyone tell you that you're just a clown? Murong Yu sneered. He did not even look at Wang Hai's attack. However, Wang Hai was furious. He roared angrily, and an even more terrifying power burst out, surging towards Murong Yu like a torrent. Spiritual slash. Murong Yu smiled coldly and directly launched a spiritual attack. Pooh! Wang Hai's soul was completely unable to stop Murong Yu's spiritual attack and was directly shattered. And at this time, his fist was not far from Murong Yu. However, he would never be able to move forward, because he was already dead to the point where he could not be more dead. In truth, Murong Yu wanted to kill this fool with a single punch. Dealing with such a despicable person was more satisfying with his fists. However, he did not want to expose too much, so he could only destroy his soul. Large black dog. After killing Wang Hai, Murong Yu took away Wang Hai's spatial treasure. At the same time, he threw Wang Hai's corpse to the large black dog. The large black dog chuckled and directly swallowed Wang Hai. He was only a dog, not a person. Therefore, swallowing a person was not a big deal. Zheng Ro and the others were also puzzled and disgusted. They had even seen people eat people, let alone a corpse that the large black dog had just swallowed. Wang Hai was really poor, and there was nothing in his spatial treasure that Murong Yu was interested in. However, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat, and he reluctantly put the spatial treasure away. Of course, Wang Hai was not really poor. His wealth could be considered above average, even among peak ancestral saints. It was just that Murong Yu had a lot of treasures, so he did not care about them. There's nothing special about it. Looking at the dragon phoenix flower in his hand, Murong Yu did not find anything special about it at all. Immediately, he suppressed the urge to eat the dragon phoenix flower and tossed it to Zheng Ro, who had discovered it first. Zheng Ro caught the dragon phoenix flower in a daze, and for a moment, she did not react. Although she had discovered the dragon phoenix flower, it had been taken away by Wang Hai. However, Murong Yu had killed Wang Hai. Logically speaking, the ownership of the dragon phoenix flower should belong to Murong Yu. Put away. You discovered the dragon phoenix flower. It doesn't matter if you keep it or share it with the others. Murong Yu smiled faintly. Although he wanted to eat the dragon phoenix flower to see if it could really cultivate the cultivation techniques of the dragon and phoenix races, he was not in a hurry. He would definitely be able to obtain more dragon phoenix flowers. No, you took the dragon phoenix flower from Wang Hai, so it should belong to you. I can't take it. Zheng Ro hesitated for a moment before she finally said firmly, I don't need the dragon phoenix flower. Moreover, with my status, do you think I would lack this dragon phoenix flower? If you don't want it, you can throw it away, Murong Yu said indifferently. He really did not need the dragon phoenix flower. If that's the case, I'll take it. Murong Yu, thank you. Zheng Ro accepted the dragon phoenix flower and thanked Murong Yu. Peng Huamao and the others were not dissatisfied. After all, Zheng Ro had discovered the flower herself, and Murong Yu had given it to her. Even if Zheng Ro wanted it, they would not be dissatisfied. After thanking Murong Yu, Zheng Ro said to Peng Huamao and the others, Leader, we discovered this flower together. After leaving the heavenly demon mystery land, we'll share it equally. Peng Huamao and the others were naturally unwilling. However, due to Zheng Ro's insistence, they finally agreed. Seeing this scene, Murong Yu couldn't help but nod inwardly. Although this team's combat power was not strong, their character was passable. They were all worthy friends. Murong Yu even had the idea of absorbing them into Shenzhen. However, this matter could not be rushed. Therefore, everyone went deeper and deeper. They did not know if their luck had suddenly turned for the better. Along the way, they kept discovering dragon phoenix flowers. In a month, they had already picked more than 10 dragon phoenix flowers. The lowest was a first-grade dragon phoenix flower, and the highest was a third-grade one. The harvest in this month was more than what Zheng Ro and the others had gained in their entire lives. However, was their luck really turning for the better? Murong Yu did not think so. During this process, he felt that he was being spied on a few times. Moreover, the ferocious beasts they encountered were getting stronger and stronger. In this month, they were forced to move forward along the same path. Moreover, their escape route was blocked by groups of powerful, ferocious beasts. Even if they realized that something was wrong, they could not leave this place. They could only move forward. Therefore, even though they had obtained more than 10 dragon phoenix flowers, Zheng Ro and the others did not look happy. Instead, they looked worried. Murong Yu was the only one who remained calm. At most, they could only enter Hichu Luo Shu. Even if they could not enter Hichu Luo Shu, there was nothing they could do. Anyway, there was no way out. On this day, an unfamiliar yet familiar voice sounded in Murong Yu's mind from Hichu Luo Shu, giving him a fright. Murong Yu, help me. Chapter 1580. The voice did come from Hichu Luo Shu, and it sounded familiar. It seemed to be Little Z, because at this time, Little Z was the only one in Hichu Luo Shu. However, although the voice was like Little Z, the tone was different from Little Z, because Little Z always looked like a 6 or 7-year-old girl. She had always called Murong Yu Big Brother, but never called Murongyu by his name. Because of the confusion in his heart, Murongyu used a trace of divine thought to explore Hichu Luo Shu. Little Z, who had been sleeping, had woken up at this time. She sat on the ground and looked at Murongyu. However, Murongyu sensed a trace of energy fluctuation from Little Purple's body. The fluctuation made Murongyu's heart palpitate. However, the power was too unstable. It seemed that it would become the original at any time. And what made Murongyu shocked was that Little Z's aura was different from before. Of course, it was not completely different. Murongyu could still feel the familiar aura from Little Z, but the aura was very weak. It seemed that it had been suppressed by another aura. Who are you? Why did you occupy Little Z's body? Murongyu's face was gloomy, and he asked in a deep voice, You are Murongyu? Little Z looked at Murongyu faintly. Her eyes made Murongyu feel strange, but also familiar. It seemed to be combined with Little Z's eyes. Murongyu nodded and continued to ask in a deep voice, Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. For Little Z, Murongyu had always been fond of her. Naturally, he did not want Little Z to be hurt. Big brother, I am Little Z. Please help me. Before Murongyu's voice fell, Little Z's aura suddenly changed and became exactly the same as before. Murongyu's face suddenly became gloomy, and a fierce killing intent burst out. Who are you? Get out of Little Z's body. Murongyu thought that the person who had controlled Little Z's body had changed his aura and turned into Little Z's appearance to deceive him. Murongyu, I have no reason to lie to you. I am Little Z, and Little Z is me. Let me give you a piece of advice. You better not go any further. Otherwise, all of you will die here. Even Hichu Luo Shu would not be able to escape. You can choose not to believe me. Little Z suddenly sneered again. Murongyu was at a loss. His intuition told him that the person who occupied Little Z's body was not malicious, and the two of them were the same person. Thinking of his previous guess, Murongyu believed it a little. Therefore, he stopped Peng Hua Mao and the others in the heavenly demon secret realm. It's best if they all enter Hichu Luo Shu. Otherwise, Little Z said coldly again. Murongyu thought about it, and finally decided to do as Little Z said. Peng Hua Mao and the others were decent people, and Murongyu did not want them to die here. However, he did not force them into Hichu Luo Shu. I feel a very strong sense of danger. How about this? I have a space treasure. Let's go into my space treasure for now. Murongyu glanced at Zheng Ro and the others, and said in a negotiating tone, if Peng Hua Mao and the others were not willing, he would not force them. Peng Hua Mao thought for a while, and then nodded. Zheng Ro and the others had no objection. These days, a strong sense of danger shrouded their hearts. If Murongyu's space treasure could really protect them, they did not mind going in. Most importantly, they believed in Murongyu. If Wang Hai said so, Peng Hua Mao and the others did not even need to think about it, and directly refused. This was because they did not believe in that fool. Immediately, Murongyu put them all into the Hichu Luo Shu. Then, Murongyu shrunk the Hichu Luo Shu into an invisible particle, and after going deep into the ground, his original body appeared in front of Little Z. Give me an explanation, Murongyu said in a low voice. Do you know the origin of the heavenly demon mystery land? The boy did not answer Murongyu's question, and instead asked a question of his own. Murongyu nodded. It's said that this mystery land was formed after the heavenly demoness died. However, legends are just legends, and they can't be taken seriously. It's true, Little Z said firmly. Murongyu looked at Little Z in surprise, not knowing why she was so determined. Could she be the legendary heavenly demoness? This thought flashed through Murongyu's mind. However, he immediately dismissed it. He felt that this idea was too crazy, too nonsensical. Because I am the heavenly demoness. Little Z's next words almost made Murongyu fall to the ground. You are the heavenly demoness? Murongyu stabilized himself and looked at Little Z in disbelief. He did not believe that Little Z was the heavenly demoness. After all, the heavenly demoness was an ancient sovereign, and little Z was just a little girl who appeared in the immortal realm. Although it was a little strange, it was really hard to believe that she was the heavenly demoness. I am the heavenly demoness, and also not the heavenly demoness. Seeing that Murong-yu did not believe her, little Z could not help but explain. This was also because she needed Murong-yu's help. Otherwise, with her previous status and identity, she would not bother to explain to Murong-yu. It turned out that in ancient times, the heavenly demoness was a sovereign who was both good and evil. Sometimes, she would kill a large number of people without blinking. Other times, she would save many people. She could only be considered a person who was neither good nor bad. However, she had always been herself and never cared about the considerations of others. Therefore, in the end, due to the accumulation of conflicts, she fought a great battle with other sovereigns. The heavenly demoness was indeed powerful, but she was outnumbered. In the end, she died. However, although she had fallen, she had also heavily injured her enemies. After she died, the heavenly demoness' physical body transformed into this heavenly demon mystic realm. Even the other sovereigns at that time thought that the heavenly demon mystic realm was formed by the heavenly demoness' physical body and her sovereign weapon. However, in reality, the heavenly demoness' physical body was still suppressed in the depths of the heavenly demon mystic realm. This heavenly demon mystic realm was only used to suppress the heavenly demoness' physical body. This was the heavenly demoness plan. However, she was just taking precautions and did not think that she would have to use the heavenly demon mystic realm. The heavenly demon mystic realm was used to suppress her physical body. If the heavenly demon mystic realm could not be destroyed, then her physical body could not be destroyed. Her physical body could not be destroyed. Even if her soul was destroyed, the heavenly demoness still had some tricks left behind after a long time. Her physical body would grow a new soul. Although it would not be her original soul, as long as her memories were extracted, she would be a complete heavenly demoness. Ideally, the heavenly demoness would be revived. However, there is no lack of accidents in this world. There was an accident in the heavenly demoness plan. Although her soul was destroyed back then, there was still a remnant soul left. In the beginning, this remnant soul was attached to her physical body. This way, in time, the heavenly demoness would be revived. However, an accident happened. This time, the soul split into 3 parts. One part was suppressed, and the other part escaped. Only the strongest part of the soul continued to be attached to the physical body. You're saying that little Z is the reincarnation of the remnant soul that escaped from you? And the current you is the remnant soul that was suppressed? Murong-yu asked with a frown. He somewhat believed little Z's words. However, this was too troublesome. Little Z nodded. Then, he continued to speak. The original heavenly demoness remaining soul was just a remnant soul. After splitting into 3 parts, the part that was reincarnated into little Z was actually the weakest part. Furthermore, he had been injured by the most powerful soul when he was escaping, causing him to lose all of his memories. Because of this, little Z did not know that she was the heavenly demoness. Moreover, she did not seem to be very powerful. However, she was the reincarnation of a supreme being after all. Little Z had an endless lifespan and some special methods. When the big black dog and the boy entered the heavenly demon mystery realm last time, they were discovered by the 2 souls of the heavenly demoness. The strongest soul wanted to devour little Z. Although it had recovered for countless years, that soul still could not recover to its peak state. It was still a long way from its peak state. However, if she devoured the other 2 souls, it would help her recover to her peak state faster. However, just as she made a move, the suppressed soul also made a move. With her interference and help, little Z and the big black dog managed to escape. Otherwise, little Z would have been devoured long ago. Hearing this, Murong-yu could not help but break out in a cold sweat. However, a new problem arose. Why didn't that soul devour the soul that was being suppressed? I have a way to save my life. If she dares to snatch it, I will directly self-destruct. Therefore, although she has been trying to devour me, she has not succeeded. Murongyu, as long as you help me destroy the other soul, I can return to my physical body. Little Z will naturally recover, although she is the reincarnation of a trace of my soul. After all, she has no memories. She can still be herself. As if afraid that Murongyu would not agree, Little Z quickly gave Murongyu a condition. However, Murongyu did not immediately agree. The other party was a supreme being. Before he fully understood, he did not want to directly offend a supreme being. That was definitely courting death. What's the level of your soul's strength? Peak chaotic ancestor saint. Little Z told him the truth. Murongyu's figure suddenly staggered. How could a mere saint king like him go head-on against an expert of that level? He had not lived long enough. Chapter 1581. Heavenly Enchantress. I actually want to help you, but I'm only a 5th level Holy King after all. Even if I want to help you, I'm powerless. I think you should find someone else. Murongyu pondered for a moment and immediately rejected her. Although he also wanted Little Z to come back, the price was not his life. Moreover, even if he lost his life, Little Z might not come back. Now that they were all in Hichu Luoshu, Murongyu was the master. If the Heavenly Enchantress was still occupying Little Z's body, Murongyu would naturally find a way to drive her out. Anyway, the Heavenly Enchantress was the Heavenly Enchantress, and Little Z was Little Z. Murongyu cared about Little Z. As for the Heavenly Enchantress, it had nothing to do with him. Moreover, Murongyu already had enough troubles to deal with. If he could destroy the Heavenly Enchantress's most powerful remnant soul, it would be fine. If he could not, then he would be remembered by the other party. Once the other party broke through to the supreme level, it would be the end of Murongyu. He would not even be able to escape. Other than the Heavenly Enchantress, Murongyu's Hichu Luoshu also suppressed a supreme weapon, Nuwa's temple. Murongyu clearly remembered that Nuwa also wanted his help. Those who could die in Nuwa's hands were at least supreme level, and not just one supreme level. When he thought of this, Murongyu's head was infinitely big. Murongyu, are you really not going to help? The Heavenly Enchantress immediately looked like she was about to cry, looking at Murongyu pitifully. However, Murongyu had already decided not to help, so he was indifferent to this. Murongyu, I can give you my supreme weapon as long as you help me. Seeing that Murongyu was indifferent, Little Z began to tempt him. Murongyu shook his head. The supreme weapon is very tempting to me, but I don't want to lose my life. So, no matter what, I won't help. Actually, I don't want to die. In any case, you're a chaos celestial body, making you an enemy of the entire world. Not even the hegemon will let you off the hook. If you can help me, I can help you reach the peak of the primal chaos ancestor saint realm in the shortest time possible. You can even break through to the supremacy realm. Murongyu was shocked. Weren't there only 10 supremes in the holy world? Little Z could help him break through to Supreme Master? How is this possible? Could it be that she wanted to kill one of the current supremes? In fact, Murongyu still had some doubts in his heart. There were only 10 supremes, but after supremes like the heavenly demoness were revived, they were also supremes before. But in that case, wouldn't the number of supreme martial artists exceed 10? And it seemed that Autark Nuwa was about to come back to life as well. As if she knew what Murongyu was thinking, the Heavenly Enchantress couldn't help but sneer. There are indeed 10 supremes, but it's not that simple. Perhaps, given your talent, you will become an Autark in the future, or even surpass the hegemon and become the controller of primal chaos. But without my help, your chances of becoming a supremacy are less than 1 in a million, and it's very likely that you'll die before becoming a supremacy. Not simple? Murongyu frowned at the heavenly demoness. Could it be that there were more than 10 supremes in the holy world? However, the heavenly demoness didn't answer this question. Furthermore, no one gave Murongyu an answer. Everyone knew that there were only 10 supremes in the holy world, and of the 10 sacred lands of the human race, only True Martial Temple and Peerless Palace had 2 supremes. Murong-yu originally believed that saying, but now it didn't seem to be the case. However, the supremacy realm was too far away from him. Everything was a secret to him. Once his cultivation level and strength reached that level, he would naturally know the secrets. Murong-yu shook his head. The heavenly demoness offer was indeed very tempting. But Murong-yu wasn't one of those hotheads. If he died this time, how could he become a supremacy? Although the entire world was his enemy now, Murong-yu still believed that there was always a way out. Boom. Just as Murong-yu kept rejecting the heavenly demoness offer, and the heavenly demoness kept offering tempting conditions. Suddenly, the entire Hichu Luoshu shook violently. Puffed. Murong-yu spat out a mouthful of blood. This was because Hichu Luoshu had suffered a powerful attack, and the overflowing damage had directly injured Murong-yu. Murong-yu's expression changed slightly. With a thought, his divine telekinesis had already spread out. The next moment, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Hichu Luoshu's surroundings were densely packed with all kinds of ferocious beasts. What shocked Murong-yu the most was that each of these ferocious beasts was extremely terrifying. The weakest was a rank 1 primal chaos ancestor sage, and the strongest definitely surpassed rank 6 primal chaos ancestor sage. This was because Murong-yu could sense that the aura of these ferocious beasts was countless times stronger than the rank 6 ferocious beast he had subdued. Tens of thousands of ferocious beasts. Hichu Luoshu was surrounded by countless ferocious beasts. Murong-yu's heart sank immediately. During this process, Murong-yu tried to sense Hichu Luoshu and realized that he could still sense the teleportation point. Thus, he began the teleportation without any hesitation. But, in the next moment, what made Murong-yu's heart sink was that Hichu Luoshu didn't move at all. The void here had been sealed, and the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo had been sealed in this world. Damn it! Murong-yu cursed with an ugly expression. Noticing Murong-yu's behavior, the heavenly enchantress expression changed slightly, and she immediately inquired. Murong-yu didn't say anything. He just let the heavenly enchantress see everything outside. Murong-yu, you have nowhere to run now. If you help me, you might still have a chance to live. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape the heavenly demon mystic realm. Once this kid's soul is devoured, the heavenly enchantress will become even stronger. Once she's stronger, she could devour me. Then, she'll be able to leave the heavenly enchantress secret realm and even recover to the honorable stage. The heavenly enchantress said with a serious expression. However, she still didn't forget to persuade Murong-yu. Murong-yu looked at the heavenly enchantress with an ugly expression. Did you already know this? The heavenly enchantress laughed. However, this made Murong-yu even angrier. If the heavenly enchantress knew all this, why didn't she say so earlier? Wasn't this forcing her to submit? Murong-yu, don't be angry. You've been discovered since you entered the heavenly enchantress secret realm. In other words, you can't leave after entering the heavenly enchantress secret realm. Whether I remind you or not, the result is the same. He had been plotted against. Murong-yu immediately felt like he had failed miserably an easy task. He had nowhere to vent his anger. All right, I'll help you. After pondering for a while, Murong-yu finally decided to help. In reality, he could only help now. He didn't have any other choice. Just as the heavenly enchantress said, if he helped, there was still a chance of survival. If he didn't help, he would die without a doubt. What should we do now? Murong-yu asked. Go to the heavenly enchantress palace. The heavenly enchantress palace is my honorable artifact. Only by going there can we deal with that person. However, you have to remember that the current me is only an incomplete one. The real me is still being suppressed in the depths of the heavenly enchantress palace, and the other party hasn't discovered it yet. I need you to go to the heavenly enchantress palace and cooperate with me to release me. Then, we'll heavily injure that person. The heavenly enchantress told Murong-yu her plan in detail. She spoke very carefully, because Murong-yu was her only hope of resurrection. If this didn't work, it would be impossible for her to make a comeback in the future. All right, I'll believe you. However, I hope you won't disappoint me. Otherwise, I'll make you regret it. Muronyu looked deeply at the heavenly enchantress. Then, one of his energy clones appeared in the heavenly enchantress secret realm. Stop attacking. I'll go with you, Muronyu said in a low voice. He didn't care if these beasts could understand him. However, since they were controlled here, the one controlling them was definitely another heavenly enchantress. The beasts attacked in such a large area because they hadn't discovered Hichu Luoshu's existence. They just wanted to use this method to force Muronyu out. At least you know what's good for you. A cold voice sounded in Muronyu's ears. Then the beasts stopped attacking. Then, Muronyu's main body appeared. Muronyu didn't have to worry about anything now. Even if his main body died, he still had a dragon clone. What was there to be afraid of? However, he didn't want to give up on his main body and Hichu Luoshu until the very last moment. After all, without the chaotic celestial body, he couldn't become a chaos controller. With the dragon clone's ability, it was impossible for him to become a supreme being. Therefore, Muronyu followed the beasts in the direction of the heavenly enchantress palace. These ferocious beasts followed Muronyu from a distance, preventing him from escaping. The heavenly enchantress palace was located in the deepest part of the heavenly enchantress secret realm. It had only appeared recently. No one had seen the heavenly enchantress palace before. When he arrived at the heavenly enchantress palace, Muronyu's footsteps paused. This was because he saw a sea of flowers near the heavenly enchantress palace. A sea of flowers made up of dragon phoenix flowers. Among the countless dragon phoenix flowers, there must be a 9th grade one. If I can pluck all these dragon phoenix flowers and take them out, I'm afraid that even the 10 holy lands combined won't be as rich as me, Muronyu thought. Seeing Muronyu's gaze, the heavenly enchantress in Hichu Luoshu snorted in dissatisfaction. You're still thinking about these dragon phoenix flowers at a time like this. Muronyu smiled embarrassedly. It was still a question whether he could leave, let alone bring these dragon phoenix flowers out. After pausing for a moment, Muronyu stepped into the heavenly enchantress palace without hesitation. In the next moment, a young lady in a black dress with a graceful figure that was almost identical to Little Z appeared in his line of sight. Alike. They were too alike. If it was only in terms of appearance, she was exactly the same as Little Z. However, her aura and temperament were completely different from Little Z and the other heavenly enchantress. Most importantly, this lady gave Muronyu an extremely strong sense of danger. Gloomy, cold, and filled with murderous intent. Muronyu could only sense all sorts of negative feelings from her. Chapter 1582. I forgot to tell you, this heavenly enchantress is formed from my original evil thoughts. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress voice rang in Muronyu's mind, and then it went silent. As long as one was a human, or more accurately, as long as one was a living being, there would be good and evil thoughts. For good people, it was their good thoughts that suppressed their evil thoughts. For evil people, it was the opposite. This was also why some good people could suddenly turn bad, and some bad people could also become good people. Once one side was suppressed, then the other side would dominate this person. And this heavenly enchantress in black in front of Muronyu was actually formed from evil thoughts. This was a little difficult, a gathering of all kinds of dark sides. It was impossible to reason with her. Hand over Little Z, and I'll let you leave. The heavenly enchantress spoke. Her voice was cold. Muronyu instantly felt like he had fallen into an ice cave. Even his soul seemed to have been frozen. Muronyu shook his head, but he didn't say anything. The heavenly enchantress glanced at him. This time, Muronyu's body was almost frozen stiff. You're not willing. Since you're not willing, then you can die. The heavenly enchantress was furious. A violent killing intent erupted from her body, tearing the sky and earth apart as it strangled Muronyu. Muronyu's body was frozen, and it was impossible for him to escape. He was so shocked that his face turned pale. At the same time, he was screaming for the other heavenly enchantress. What are you waiting for? Muronyu, you're doing very well. Continue to provoke her. It's best to make her focus on you. Only then will I have a chance. The heavenly enchantress said in a low voice. If you continue, I'll be dead. Murong wanted to slap the heavenly enchantress to death. But that was all he could do. Otherwise, what else could he do? Wait, even if you kill me, you won't be able to get little Z. I heard that you can't leave the heavenly demon's secret realm, right? Do you really think I'm stupid? Bring little purple in? Murong couldn't say anything. Instead, he sent a voice transmission to the black-clothed heavenly demoness. The black-clothed heavenly enchantress frowned slightly, but her violent killing intent stopped. Then, she stretched out her small hand and grabbed at Murong. Murong was shocked. In the next moment, the Hichu Luoshu flew out of his body and appeared in the black-clothed heavenly demoness hand. She had forcibly seized the Hichu Luoshu. Murong had no room to resist. This was the difference in strength. Oh, just as the black-robed heavenly demoness divine was about to enter the Hichu Luoshu. However, he found that it was blocked by a layer of incomparably powerful force. While frowning slightly, she reached out again, intending to directly grab the person inside the Hichu Luoshu. However, he still failed. Seeing this, Murong's face was filled with shock. Although the original Hichu Luoshu was powerful, it wasn't as powerful as this. A peak primal chaos ancestor sage like the black-clothed heavenly demoness could completely invade. However, the black-clothed heavenly demoness couldn't enter now. Could it be that the Hichu Luoshu had become even more powerful? Of course, this was possible. After all, the Hichu Luoshu was extremely powerful to begin with. The reason why he felt that it was a little weak before was that it didn't live up to its name as a peerless treasure. That was because the Hichu Luoshu would become stronger as its owner became stronger. If its owner wasn't strong enough, the Hichu Luoshu wouldn't be that strong either. However, the Hichu Luoshu was the Hichu Luoshu after all. Even an honorable couldn't destroy it. However, although the black-clothed heavenly demoness was furious, she didn't intend to destroy the Hichu Luoshu. Otherwise, if she slapped the Hichu Luoshu, Murong would definitely be shocked to death by the overflowing damage. The black-clothed heavenly demoness stared at the Hichu Luoshu in a daze. After a long while, Murong saw a flash of light flash across her eyes. Then, the black-clothed heavenly demoness smiled. Seeing the black-clothed heavenly demoness smile, Murong immediately had a bad feeling. As expected, I was wondering what it was. So it's the Hichu Luoshu. Legend has it that only people with the primal chaos physique can use the Hichu Luoshu. Looks like it's true. In other words, you're a primal chaos celestial? The black-clothed heavenly demoness looked at Murong with a smile. However, her smile made Murong's heart palpitate. If I can seize your physical body, then my future accomplishments won't be limited to honorable or sovereign. I'll be able to stand above everything and control the primal chaos controller. As she spoke, the black-clothed heavenly demoness suddenly laughed. Between becoming an honorable and becoming a primal chaos controller, even a fool would choose to become a primal chaos controller. The black-clothed heavenly demoness wanted to devour the other heavenly demoness and little Z because she wanted to return to the honorable realm. However, Murong, the primal chaos celestial, actually delivered himself to her doorstep. If she hadn't seized Murong's body, she would definitely have died. She would have regretted it to death. Murong even had the thought of dying. Now, it seemed that the heavenly demoness and little Z were safe. However, he was in danger. If a miracle didn't happen, his original body would definitely die today. Swish! The black-clothed heavenly demoness immediately took action and pulled Murong in front of her. Then, her soul directly rushed into Murong's soul space. As long as she destroyed Murong's soul, the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul would be able to enter Murong's soul space and take control of Murong's physical body. Just like how Murong refined the golden giant dragon avatar. What a huge soul pool. You're even a soul sage. You really gave me a huge surprise." As she spoke, the black-clothed heavenly demoness opened her mouth and swallowed Murong Yu's soul. "You want to seize my body? Let's see if you have the ability." Murong Yu roared, and all kinds of soul attacks bombarded her head and face. Although his physical body was suppressed, his soul wasn't. Insignificant skill. The black-clothed heavenly demoness sneered and actually ignored Murong Yu's attack. Although she wasn't a soul sage, she was originally condensed from a strand of remnant soul. After countless years of cultivation, her attainment in the soul aspect was higher than Murong Yu's. Therefore, Murong Yu's attack couldn't do anything to her at all and was directly neutralized. At the same time, she blasted out an attack. Boom! The terrifying power was like an ancient sacred mountain as it ruthlessly bombarded Murong Yu's body. It suppressed his soul to the point that it almost shattered. Even if it didn't shatter, his soul was injured. One must know that his soul had already reached the 3-star fourth firmament realm and was extremely powerful, and his soul pool had also reached a size of 90,000 miles. However, in front of the black-clothed heavenly demoness, it couldn't even withstand a single blow. "Obediently let me devour you, or else you'll suffer." The black-clothed heavenly demoness sneered, and once again tried to devour Murong Yu's soul. "Does the heavens want me to die?" Murong Yu didn't dare to roar in his heart. However, although he was incomparably angry and unwilling, he was definitely not someone who would sit and wait for death. "Heavenly demoness, what are you waiting for?" Murong Yu roared, and at the same time, he controlled all kinds of treasures and blasted out all kinds of techniques. Today, if the black-clothed heavenly demoness didn't die, then he would. It was already time for him to risk his life. "Goddess Nuwa, if you don't do something, I'm going to die." In a split second, Murong Yu even asked Goddess Nuwa for help. However, these were all external forces, whether they could help, and even if they helped, it was still unknown if it would be useful. He still had to rely on himself for everything. Therefore, Murong Yu frantically gathered his soul power and blasted it towards the black-clothed heavenly demoness. With his swoosh, a fierce beam shot out from the Hichu Luo Shu. It was the supreme artifact, Purple Light Heavenly Civ Pagoda. At the same time, the mountain and sea scripture also shot out from Murong Yu's body. An extremely powerful, ferocious beast rapidly attacked the black-clothed heavenly demoness body. Chapter 1583. However, the black-clothed heavenly enchantress's expression only changed slightly at the beginning. She quickly calmed down again. No one knew if she was truly panicking or suppressing it. "You two actually have something going on. Not bad. Today, I'll capture both of you in one fell swoop." The black-clothed heavenly enchantress sneered. This gave Murong Yu a bad feeling. Previously, the black-clothed heavenly enchantress suppressed the other heavenly enchantress because she wanted to devour the other one. That was why she didn't kill the other heavenly enchantress. However, today Murong Yu, someone with the chaotic celestial body physique, was in front of her. As long as she possessed Murong Yu's body, she wouldn't need to devour the other heavenly enchantress's soul. When Murong Yu thought of this, a bad feeling welled up in his heart. As expected, boom, the black-clothed heavenly enchantress's body shook violently. Then, an aura more than 10 times stronger than before erupted from her body. Half-step to supreme stage. The other heavenly enchantress had already broken free. The one who appeared in front of Murong Yu was a woman who looked exactly like the black-clothed heavenly enchantress. However, this woman was dressed in purple like Little Z. "Are you surprised?" The black-clothed heavenly enchantress laughed, looking very pleased. She had already reached half-step to supreme stage long ago. However, she couldn't break through the last step. Originally, she didn't have the confidence to suppress the purple-clothed heavenly enchantress and devour her soul. However, there was no need for that now. Thus, she unleashed her strongest power. She wanted to destroy the purple-clothed heavenly enchantress and Murong Yu's souls in one fell swoop. The purple-clothed heavenly enchantress's face instantly turned pale. She had been cultivating all these years. Her strength had already reached the pinnacle of chaos ancestor sage. Originally, she thought that she could catch the black-clothed heavenly enchantress off guard by teaming up with Murong Yu. However, she had miscalculated. The gap between a half-step to supreme stage and a pinnacle chaos ancestor sage was huge. Therefore, after the purple-clothed heavenly enchantress recovered from her shock, she took a step forward and turned into a stream of light, charging out of the heavenly demon palace. She was no match for the black-clothed heavenly demoness and could only choose to flee. However, during this process, she was considerate enough to remind Murong Yu to escape. However, if he could escape, Murong Yu would have done so long ago. He had nowhere to run now. Annihilate. After erupting with all her strength, the black-clothed heavenly demoness' strength became even more terrifying. She slapped out her palm, and in the blink of an eye, it had already slapped onto Murong Yu's soul. Bang! Murong Yu's soul was smashed into pieces. Murong Yu's vision also went black, and he completely lost consciousness. Crack! 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 At that moment, all the people in the Saints' world who possessed Murong Yu's soul jade slip in their spatial treasure shattered. My husband has fallen. Phoenix Clan, Wudong Mountain, Zhao Jiqing, whose strength had already reached the primal chaos ancestor saint stage, opened her eyes from her cultivation state. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she looked at Murong Yu's soul jade slip that had been torn into 7 or 8 pieces. In the next moment, 2 streams of tears flowed from her eyes. Her face was also drained of blood. Her originally straight body trembled, and in the end, her body tilted and she fell to the ground. Yu Mengqing, Murong Xian, Fan Tong, and the others all discovered that Murong Yu's soul jade slip had shattered. All of them were either in disbelief, anger, or sadness. In short, it didn't matter if they were angry or sad. All of them felt that Murong Yu didn't seem to have really died, because if he had really fallen, his soul jade slip would turn into dust. At the very least, it would turn into fine sand. It was rare to see a soul jade slip torn into 7 or 8 pieces like Murong Yu. Therefore, they all felt that Murong Yu didn't die. Moreover, in the holy world, some places were extremely sealed. Once one entered, one's soul aura would be isolated. This would also cause the soul jade slip to shatter. However, even if they didn't believe it, they still used the resources in their hands to inquire about Murong Yu's situation. Murong Yu had fallen. Had Murong Yu really fallen? In any case, the black-clothed and purple-clothed heavenly demoness were certain that Murong Yu had fallen, because they could no longer sense Murong Yu's soul aura. The purple-clothed heavenly demoness felt a little guilty. She was the one who had caused all this. However, now that Murong Yu had fallen, there was nothing she could do to change the situation. Moreover, her life was in danger at any time. Boom! After destroying Murong Yu's soul, the black-clothed heavenly demoness brazenly attacked again. How big was the gap between a half-step supreme and a peak primal chaos ancestor saint? The purple-clothed heavenly demoness didn't even have time to react before she was hit. Then, she was sent flying while spurting blood. Purple, don't you have a life-saving method? Why don't you commit suicide now? The black-clothed heavenly demoness slowly walked towards the purple-clothed heavenly demoness and sneered. All along, the purple-clothed heavenly demoness had used suicide to threaten the black-clothed heavenly demoness. Because if the purple-clothed heavenly demoness committed suicide, the black-clothed heavenly demoness wouldn't get anything. It was because of this that they were in a deadlock until now. The purple-clothed heavenly demoness immediately suffered a heavy injury. Then, the black-clothed heavenly demoness attacked again and sealed the purple-clothed heavenly demoness power before she committed suicide. Originally, the purple-clothed heavenly demoness was sealed and the black-clothed heavenly demoness couldn't do anything to her. But now that she wanted to escape, it really gave the black-clothed heavenly demoness a great opportunity. temporarily not dealing with the purple-clothed heavenly demoness. The black-clothed heavenly demoness looked at Murong-Yu. The temptation of the primal chaos, celestial body, was too great. She desperately wanted to possess Murong-Yu's body. Once she possessed Murong-Yu's body and then devoured the souls of Little Purple and the purple-clothed heavenly demoness, she was confident that she could quickly reach the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. Then, she would go all the way to the Paragon realm. Therefore, the black-clothed heavenly demoness sealed the heavenly demoness palace. She didn't want to be disturbed during the possession process. Then, she sat cross-legged on the ground, and her soul materialized and entered Murong-Yu's soul space. She was ready to refine Murong-Yu's body. What's going on? After the black-clothed heavenly demoness entered Murong-Yu's soul space, she frowned slightly. Because although Murong-Yu's soul was torn, the soul pool didn't dissipate. But this wasn't a big deal. Refine all of them. The black-clothed heavenly demoness immediately began to refine Murong-Yu's body and devour the power of Murong-Yu's soul. A large amount of soul power was devoured, and the soul pool that was 90,000 miles in size dried up at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, what made the black-clothed heavenly demoness feel strange was that she didn't devour Murong-Yu's soul fragments. In the endless chaos, Murong-Yu still had a trace of consciousness left. At this moment, he saw his soul being devoured by the black-clothed heavenly demoness, but he could only be anxious because he couldn't do anything. This trace of consciousness was too weak. The slightest movement would cause it to be annihilated. Who dares to devour my disciple's soul? At this moment, Murong-Yu seemed to hear a familiar voice in the chaos. At the same time, the black-clothed heavenly demoness who was madly devouring Murong-Yu's soul and refining Murong-Yu's body suddenly felt an extremely strong aura of death in her heart. Turning pale with fright, she immediately withdrew her soul from Murong-Yu's spiritual space and returned to her original body in the blink of an eye. Only in her original body, the black-clothed heavenly demoness was the strongest. Die! The majestic and domineering voice sounded again. Then, an ordinary-looking hand reached out from Murong-Yu's body. In a flash, the palm slapped the black-clothed heavenly demoness body. Bang! After a muffled sound, the black-clothed heavenly demoness body was immediately smashed into powder. And her soul was also scattered. Sovereign's soul? Unfortunately, it's only broken. However, it can barely compensate for Murong-Yu's loss. Forget it. Master will help you today and let you get some benefits. The majestic voice sounded in the heavenly demoness palace. Then, the ordinary-looking hand grabbed the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul and slapped it into Murong-Yu's soul space. Although Murong-Yu's consciousness was a little fuzzy after the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul fragments were sent in, the order to devour automatically appeared. Thus, his soul fragments began to devour the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul fragments. After slapping the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul fragments into Murong-Yu's soul space, the large hand disappeared into thin air without a trace, as if it suddenly appeared. And the purple-clothed heavenly demoness watched this scene from start to end, but she could only feel anxious and helpless. The black-clothed heavenly demoness wanted to devour her soul. How could she not want to devour her soul too? But after seeing the terror of the large hand, the purple-clothed heavenly demoness could only swallow her gloominess into her stomach. She absolutely did not dare to make a move against Murong-Yu. If that large hand were to make a move again, it would definitely be able to easily slap her to death. That is Murong-Yu's master, and Murong-Yu seemed to have only taken him as his master once. And that person was the Seckless Dao's Dao master. You better forget all of this, or else die. The majestic voice suddenly sounded in the purple-clothed heavenly demoness mind. The purple-clothed heavenly demoness could only nod her head helplessly, although she was unwilling, but who knew that the other party was stronger than her now. Moreover, the purple-clothed heavenly demoness felt that the owner of that large hand was much stronger than her when she was alive. She was not his match when she was alive, let alone now. Moreover, the purple-clothed heavenly demoness also knew that that person did not want Murong-yu to know that he had made a move before. If Murong-yu knew that there was such a peerless expert in his body, he would not have the heart to fight. Without the heart to fight, he would only want to rely on this powerful existence. How could Murong-yu become a peerless expert, become a primal chaos sovereign? Chapter 1584. As time passed, Murong-yu's soul fragments recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, he greedily devoured the black-clothed heavenly enchantress soul fragments. At this moment, Zhao Jiqing, Murong Xian, Fan Tong, and the others were pleasantly surprised to find that Murong-yu's soul fragments, which had been shattered into 7 or 8 pieces, were showing signs of healing. This naturally surprised Zhao Jiqing and the others, but it was more of a pleasant surprise, because this meant that Murong-yu had not died. During this process, the purple-clothed heavenly enchantress, who had been heavily injured and sealed by the black-clothed heavenly enchantress, finally broke through the black-clothed heavenly enchantress seal. However, her injuries did not immediately recover, and she was still heavily injured. However, she no longer had any main enemies, and no one would continue to fight with her for her body and supreme weapon. As long as she was given time, she would eventually be able to recover to the supreme state. However, without the black-clothed heavenly enchantress soul for her to devour, it would take her a long time to recover to the supreme state. If the Seamless Society's Down Master did not make a move, the purple-clothed heavenly enchantress would definitely make a move to strengthen the black-clothed heavenly enchantress soul. At most, she would give Murong-yu enough compensation. But now, even if she had the guts of the heavens, she would not dare to do anything to Murong-yu. On the contrary, as long as Murong-yu did not leave the heavenly demon's secret realm, she would protect Murong-yu well and not let him lose a single hair. As one of the 10 Great Supremes, she knew how terrifying the 10 Great Supremes were. And the Seamless Society's Down Master was even more terrifying than her when she was alive. In other words, the Seamless Society's Down Master was very likely to be one of the 10 Great Supremes. Of course, this was only the heavenly enchantress guess. The holy world was extremely vast, and there were many things that even the 10 Great Supremes did not know. However, the heavenly enchantress was clear that with the Seamless Society's Down Master's terrifying strength, it would be extremely easy to kill her. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, countless saints who had entered the heavenly demon's secret realm felt an indescribable but incomparably powerful force acting on their bodies. Before they could react, they felt the scenery in front of them change rapidly. When they finally reacted, they were shocked to find that they were already outside the heavenly demon's secret realm. He looked around and saw that he was surrounded by saints who were as confused as he was. Furthermore, a large number of people were constantly being teleported out. The heavenly demon mystic realm was controlled by someone else. When they recalled the scene of Murong-yu's Mountain Sea mystic realm kicking someone out, how could they not know that the heavenly demon mystic realm was controlled by someone else? The first person that came to everyone's mind was the mysterious expert who controlled countless ferocious beasts. In fact, they did not know that the one who controlled the heavenly demon mystic realm was no longer the black-clothed heavenly demoness, but the purple-clothed heavenly demoness. However, there was only one heavenly enchantress now. The heavenly demon's secret realm was formed after the death of the heavenly demoness. After the death of the black-clothed heavenly demoness, the purple-clothed heavenly demoness immediately took control of the heavenly demon's secret realm. She had kicked everyone away because she was seriously injured. Once those countless sages found them, they would not be able to fight back. Moreover, she did not want to see Murong-yu continue to be injured or killed. After kicking everyone out of the secret realm, the heavenly demoness also gave up on controlling those ferocious beasts. Thus, the heavenly demon mystic realm gradually returned to its previous state. Year after year, an unknown number of years passed. On this day, Murong-Yu's consciousness was finally released from the endless chaos. I'm not dead. At this time, Murong-Yu was surprised to find that he was not dead, and his soul had returned to its original state. He did not look injured at all. However, he clearly remembered that his soul had been destroyed by the black-clothed heavenly demoness. It seems like someone saved me. I wonder who it is. Murong-Yu frowned slightly and began to search through that part of his memory. However, he did not find anything. There was only an extremely blurry point, and he did not know what was going on. Could it be an illusion? It can't be an illusion. I was almost killed by the black-clothed heavenly demoness before. This is the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul? While muttering to himself, Murong-Yu suddenly discovered that a part of the soul fragments that contained extremely terrifying soul power had appeared in his soul space. The level of these soul fragments was much higher than his. The black-clothed heavenly demoness soul was only a remnant soul. However, it was still developed from a remnant soul of Jizun. Even if it was just a remnant soul of Jizun, it was still much stronger than Murong-Yu's 3-star soul. If I can devour and fuse with these soul fragments, my 4-star soul will be 4-star. No, it can even reach 5-star level. Murong-Yu's heart moved. The idea of devouring the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul became even stronger. Immediately, Murong-Yu did not care about anything else and immediately began to devour the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul. During the process, he also wanted to find some memories from the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul. However, it was futile because the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul was very clean and pure, without any memories. However, the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul was really strong. Not long later, Murong-Yu's soul broke through and reached 3-star 5th celestial layer. Furthermore, this was only the beginning. 3-star 6th celestial layer, 3-star 9th celestial layer, 4-star realm, 4-star 5th celestial layer. Seeing the soul undulations that were getting stronger and stronger from Murong-Yu's body, the heavenly demoness, who was also in the demonic palace, had a complicated expression. Originally, the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul was devoured by her. Who would have thought that Murong-Yu would benefit from it? However, if it was not for Murong-Yu, she would still be sealed by the black-clothed heavenly demoness. The black-clothed heavenly demoness would become stronger and stronger, but in the end, she would still be devoured by the black-clothed heavenly demoness. It could be said that the current heavenly demoness was already very lucky. Thus, she only looked at Murong-Yu with a complicated expression, then continued to recover from her injuries. After an unknown amount of time, on this day, an unprecedentedly strong soul undulation burst out from his body and swept in all directions, causing the entire demonic palace to tremble slightly. The heavenly demoness was awakened by this strong soul undulation. She looked at Murong-Yu and then could not help but exclaim, 5-star soul. Yes, after devouring the black-clothed heavenly demoness soul, Murong-Yu's soul had finally broken through to 5-star. There were a total of 9 realms in Soul Sage. They were separated from 1-star to 9-star. 1-star was the lowest, while 9-star was the strongest. A 5-star soul was already considered a small expert among Soul Sages. When he had 3-star soul, Murong-Yu's strength could already kill ordinary low-level Chaos Ancestor Sages. Now that his soul had reached 5-star, Murong-Yu's strength had become even stronger. Based on initial estimates, Murong-Yu could already kill mid-level Chaos Ancestor Sages. If coupled with Murong-Yu's combat strength, time law, and other means, he was confident that he could even fight against high-level Chaos Ancestor Sages. Of course, this was only Murong-Yu's initial estimate. As for how strong his combat strength had reached, he still needed to put it into practice to know. A soul pool of 20 million miles in size. Murong-Yu consolidated his current realm while observing. When he saw the almost boundless soul pool, his face revealed a brilliant smile. Originally, When he was 3-star, 4-star, Murong Yu's soul pool had only reached 90,000 miles in size. Now it was 20 million miles in size. It was more than 200 times the previous size. Most importantly, Murong Yu's soul pool was now full of soul power. With so much soul power, it was enough for Murong Yu to use up. No, it's a little inappropriate to call it soul pool now. It should be called soul sea. Murong Yu laughed. Soul sages were different from ordinary sages because a soul pool would appear in the soul space of a soul sage to store a huge amount of soul power. A soul pool below 100,000 miles in size could be called a soul pool. A soul pool between 100,000 and 500,000 miles was called a soul lake. Once it exceeded 500,000 miles in size, it would be called a soul sea. For example, Murong Yu soul sea could be called a soul sea now. The amount of soul power in the soul sea was not only much more than before. In terms of quality, it was also much more advanced than before. Now, even if it was just a soul attack, low-level Chaos Ancestor sages would definitely not be able to block it. I might as well go all the way and increase my cultivation realm. Murong Yu's heart stirred as he began to smelt the Chaos Ancestral artifact. It was extremely difficult for Murong Yu to increase his cultivation realm now, even if he had enough Chaos Ancestral artifacts. Apart from the suppression of this world, the strength of his physical body and the strength of his soul were directly related to his cultivation. If he wanted to obtain more power, he needed a strong physical body to bear it. Otherwise, his physical body would not be able to bear it, and he would explode and die. At the same time, before his soul broke through, Murong Yu felt that it was extremely difficult for him to increase his cultivation realm. But now that his soul had broken through to the 5-star level, he felt that it was easier for him to break through his cultivation realm now. Cultivation realm, physical body realm, and soul realm. It seemed that a balanced development of the three was the way of the king. Murong Yu did not know if others were like this, but it was the case for him now. Perhaps it was because his combat strength was too strong, or perhaps it was because of his special physique. However, although this made his cultivation realm increase very slowly, the benefits were extremely obvious. The biggest benefit was that no one in the same realm was his match. In reality, Murong Yu's cultivation realm breakthrough was definitely not slow. On the contrary, it was extremely fast. How many people in the Saints world could increase their strength faster than Murong Yu's? The reason why he felt it was slow was relative to his previous breakthrough speed. As expected, Murong Yu's guess was not wrong. Not long after, as a powerful energy wave burst out from his body, his cultivation realm had broken through to the 6th level Holy King realm. Chapter 1585. His soul realm has broken through to 5 stars, and his cultivation realm has also broken through to 7th level Holy King, and it's still going on. In the demonic palace, the heavenly demoness looked at Murong Yu enviously. Even though she was once one of the 10 great supremes, her aptitude was not as terrifying as Murong Yu's. After reaching the Holy King realm, even if it was just a small advancement, which one would not need a long time, to be able to become one of the 10 great supremes, their aptitude and talent were undoubtedly outstanding. They were even ranked in the top 20 of the entire holy world. It was not that there was no one with better aptitude than them. There were definitely such people, but they lacked some luck and could not become a supremes. If my recovery speed could be half of Murong Yu's, my recovery time to the supremes would be greatly increased. Unfortunately, the heavenly demoness shook her head. She was envious but not jealous. She was a supremes when she was alive, so she would not be jealous of Murong Yu. Moreover, with the seamless Gangsdao master behind her, she did not dare to have any ideas about Murong Yu. Thus, the heavenly demoness continued to recover from her injuries, and Murong Yu continued to refine the Chaos Ancestral artifacts, and his cultivation realm continued to rise. 8th level Holy King. 9th level Holy King. Peak 9th level. Murong Yu's cultivation realm continued to rise, and finally reached the peak of Holy King realm. He was only one step away from breaking through to the Ancestor Saint realm. However, this last step could not be taken. In fact, after Murong Yu's cultivation reached the peak of Holy King realm, the energy from refining the Chaos Ancestral artifacts could no longer increase his strength. All the energy was used to refine his physical body. Now, Murong Yu's physical body was far below his cultivation realm. It was only at the level of a top-grade Saint artifact. After the top-grade Saint artifact, there was still the Supreme Grade Saint artifact, Saint Grade Saint artifact, Ancestral artifact, and Chaos Ancestor artifact. Murong Yu had a feeling that if he wanted to break through to the Ancestor Saint realm, his physical body would have to be at the level of a top-grade Saint artifact. Now, it was only at the level of a top-grade Saint artifact, and there were still two major realms to break through. What terrified Murong Yu the most was that he had refined another 10,000 primal Chaos Ancestral weapons after his cultivation had stopped growing. However, his physical body still hadn't broken through. The body of a top-grade sacred artifact was like a bottomless pit, constantly devouring power. Murong Yu had no idea how many primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts he would need to devour before he could break through. Murong Yu's primal Chaos Ancestral artifact was enough for now. However, if a body at the level of a top-grade Saint artifact required so many primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts, then what would happen when it reached the level of a peerless Saint artifact? Or perhaps an even higher grade Ancestral artifact or primal Chaos Ancestral artifact? Murong Yu felt a headache when he thought about how he might need a huge amount of primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. In the end, Murong Yu stopped after refining another 1,000 primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. However, even though his physical body did not make a breakthrough, it was still too late. Even so, the energy he had gained from devouring over 10,000 primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts was still somewhat useful. At the very least, he was stronger than before. This made Murong Yu feel gratified. If it didn't have any effect at all, Murong Yu probably wouldn't even have the heart to die. The reason why Murong Yu didn't continue devouring was because he wanted to keep some primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts for Shenzhen. Moreover, under certain circumstances, he might need to use these primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. Murong Yu would only continue refining after he obtained more primal Chaos Ancestral artifacts. Slowly opening his eyes, Murong Yu happened to see the Heavenly Enchantress looking at him. Immediately, Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. Heavenly Enchantress, did anything happen after I fainted? The Heavenly Enchantress shook her head and pretended to be at a loss. What should have happened? Don't tell me you killed the black-clothed Heavenly Enchantress and generously gave her soul to me. Murong Yu laughed. He would never believe that the Heavenly Enchantress in purple would be so generous. The Heavenly Enchantress didn't answer. She only glared at Murong Yu. You're fine? My injuries haven't recovered yet. You can leave first. Murong Yu shook his head. He used his power to condense a chair in the Heavenly Enchantress Palace and sat down. Heavenly Enchantress, you can't be so heartless, right? In any case, I was the one who saved you. Is this how you treat your benefactor? Are you going back on your words? Murong Yu looked at the Heavenly Enchantress with a smile. The Heavenly Enchantress rolled her eyes. She had never seen anyone ask her for a reward in person. In fact, no one dared to treat her like this when she was alive. What do you want? The Heavenly Enchantress could only ask in a low voice. Murong Yu didn't say anything. He only looked around the Heavenly Enchantress Palace. As he looked around, he nodded as if he felt that the Heavenly Enchantress Palace was to his liking. No. Before Murong Yu could speak, the Heavenly Enchantress spoke. The Heavenly Enchantress Palace was her supreme weapon. She definitely wouldn't give it to Murong Yu. That way, her safety wouldn't be guaranteed at all. Murong Yu's face sank. His eyes flickered as he looked at the Heavenly Enchantress. Heavenly Enchantress, I seem to remember you saying before that as long as I save you, you will give me the Heavenly Enchantress Palace. Are you going back on your words now? The Heavenly Enchantress revealed a bitter smile. She did have such a promise. but she didn't really want to give the Heavenly Enchantress Palace to Murongyu, even if Murongyu saved her. She originally planned to use the Heavenly Enchantress Palace to tempt Murongyu. Once Murongyu saved her, she would devour the Heavenly Enchantress soul and quickly become a supreme expert. How would Murongyu dare to ask her for the Heavenly Enchantress Palace? She originally wanted to use other ways to compensate Murongyu, but she didn't expect that Murongyu wasn't afraid of her, a former supreme expert. And what made the Heavenly Enchantress most depressed was that Murongyu still had a terrifying infernal Dao master in his body. Helpless. Murongyu, I won't give you the Heavenly Enchantress Palace, but I can use other things to compensate you. The Heavenly Enchantress clenched her teeth and said, "What other things do you have that are worth as much as a supreme artifact?" Murongyu's smile completely disappeared as he said indifferently. Murongyu didn't have a good impression of people who went back on their words. Murongyu, the Heavenly Enchantress Palace is very important to me. Without the Heavenly Enchantress Palace, my safety can't be guaranteed. Thus, I can't give you the Heavenly Enchantress Palace. However, as long as I'm given enough time, I will become a sovereign. When that time comes, I can do 3 things for you. 3 things for a supreme expert. This condition was quite tempting. In some ways, it was even more valuable than a supreme artifact. But Murongyu shook his head. "I'm sorry, I don't accept such empty promises. And who knows if you will go back on your words when the time comes. Anyway, my strength is not as good as yours, so I can't do anything to you." The Heavenly Enchantress looked at Murongyu with a pale face. She didn't expect Murongyu to be so determined. He only wanted a supreme artifact. "I can't give you the Heavenly Enchantress Palace. Murongyu, I can become your woman. This way, I can repay your kindness to me." The Heavenly Enchantress clenched her teeth and said, even if she had lived for countless years and was one of the 10 supreme experts, many people wanted to take advantage of her. But she never looked at those men in the eye. Until her death, she was still a virgin. "You want to become my woman?" Murongyu staggered and almost fell off the chair. To be honest, the Heavenly Enchantress was absolutely devastatingly beautiful, and her figure was also very hot. But Murongyu already had 5 wives. He didn't want to add more. The Heavenly Enchantress was a little embarrassed and angry, but she still nodded heavily. Murongyu shook his head. No. The Heavenly Enchantress was angry. "Murongyu, what do you want? Why don't you kill me?" This woman, Murongyu felt a little annoyed. Unknowingly, his bad impression of the Heavenly Enchantress disappeared. She wanted to give her body to him, but she didn't want to hand over the Heavenly Enchantress Palace. One could imagine how important the Heavenly Enchantress Palace was to the Heavenly Enchantress. "All right, I'm a reasonable person. I don't want the Heavenly Enchantress Palace, but I still have a few requests." Murongyu pondered for a moment before saying, "Other than the promise of 3 things for me, you have to help little Violet recover. Also, I lost too much this time. You have to compensate me. How about this? Give me 10,000 high-level primal chaos ancestor sages and let me pick some dragon phoenix flowers. Little Violet's matter is not a problem. Dragon phoenix flowers are also not a problem. But the beast can't. You can only choose 100 primal chaos ancestor sages and below at most. The higher the realm and strength, the greater the impact on the Heavenly Enchantress secret realm. It will greatly affect my recovery." Murongyu had the urge to vomit blood. His 1,500 primal chaos ancestor sages died in exchange for 100 low-level primal chaos ancestor sages. No matter what, Murongyu felt that he had lost too much. Murongyu, but didn't lose out either. You swallowed the black-clothed Heavenly Enchantress soul. Your harvest is great. The Heavenly Enchantress said with gritted teeth. She felt that Murongyu was too greedy. It made her want to beat up Murongyu. "Heavenly Enchantress, you're an honorable, at least when you were alive. Aren't you too stingy?" Murongyu looked depressed. Seeing Murongyu's depressed look, the Heavenly Enchantress didn't know why, but she felt a little excited. Seeing Murongyu suffer a setback was something that made her happy. "You can even give up those 100 primal chaos beasts." The Heavenly Enchantress was also very determined. "If that's the case, then go and catch 100 primal chaos beasts for me. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. My poor 1,500 peerless primal chaos beasts, they accompanied me through life and death and had deep feelings for me. Now they died here in a foreign land. Morongu looked up at the sky and sighed, but it made the heavenly enchantress face black lines. Thus, the heavenly enchantress went to catch primal chaos beasts for Morongu. Morongu also left the heavenly enchantress palace and appeared in the sea of dragon phoenix flowers outside. Hichu Luoshu, collect them all. Morongu didn't plan to pick them himself at all. He directly took out the Hichu Luoshu and was about to collect all the dragon phoenix flowers. Chapter 1586. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Without any interference, Morongu collected tens of thousands of dragon phoenix flowers into the Hichu Luoshu in a short period of time. Morongu, you've gone too far. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress' angry voice rang in his ears. At the same time, the furious heavenly enchantress appeared in front of Morongu. At the same time, Morongu also felt a strong force stopping him from collecting the dragon phoenix flowers. In fact, he even saw the dragon phoenix flowers disappearing at an extremely fast speed. At this speed, all the dragon phoenix flowers would disappear in a few breaths' time. Morongu looked at the heavenly enchantress in disdain. At the same time, he increased the speed of collecting the dragon phoenix flowers. Morongu, that's enough. Don't go too far. The heavenly enchantress was furious. At the same time, she wanted to stop Morongu. Although Morongu was a little displeased, he still put away the Hitu and Luoshu before he lost his temper. He had already collected enough dragon phoenix flowers. However, he still strongly condemned the heavenly enchantress' stinginess. Heavenly enchantress, you're really stingy. It's fine if the heavenly enchantress palace doesn't give me more dragon phoenix flowers. The heavenly enchantress secret land has been open for so long. Many dragon phoenix flowers must have been collected, right? The heavenly enchantress looked at Morongu and said angrily, Morongu, how many dragon phoenix flowers have you collected? Tens of thousands of them, right? Do you know how many dragon phoenix flowers have been collected? It's not more than 100. You're a few hundred times more than those people. Also, do you know how these dragon phoenix flowers are formed? They're formed using my blood essence. The more you collect, the more damage you'll cause to me. As she spoke, the heavenly enchantress became more and more agitated. Morongu rolled his eyes and looked speechless. If you don't tell me, how would I know that these were formed by your blood essence? But I didn't pick much. At this point, Morongu added in his heart, it's only 100,000 flowers. More than 100,000. If the heavenly demoness knew about this, she would probably go crazy and fight Morongu to the death, right? The dragon phoenix flower was created by the black-clothed heavenly demoness. It attracted a large number of experts. And once those experts fell, their souls would be devoured by the black-clothed heavenly demoness. He wanted to help her break through to the supremacy realm as soon as possible. At the same time, it also has the idea of attracting Little Purple. As if she knew what Morongu wanted to ask, the Sky Enchantress explained. The black-clothed heavenly demoness was already dead, but the dragon phoenix flower was still around. Naturally, it would be transferred to the purple-clothed heavenly demoness. Originally, Morongu wanted to ask the heavenly demoness how she formed the dragon phoenix flower. However, thinking that this might be the heavenly enchantress' secret, even if he asked, she might not tell him, so he didn't ask too much. He only looked at the heavenly demoness. The heavenly demoness waved her hand, and immediately 100 rank 5 Chaos Ancestor Saint-level beasts appeared not far in front of Morongu. However, they were all knocked out by the heavenly demoness. So stingy, she said 100 and means 100. Morongu muttered, then took out the mountain sea scripture and kept the beasts. The heavenly demoness pretended not to hear Morongu's words. Whether it was the dragon phoenix flower or the beasts, they were all closely related to her. If not, it wouldn't be a problem to give all the beasts in the heavenly demon secret realm to Murong-Yu. Now, only Little Purple was left. I have already retracted the soul I possessed in Little Purple. She will wake up after a while. The heavenly demoness said calmly, at the same time looking at Murong-Yu. Her meaning was obvious. She wanted Murong-Yu to leave the heavenly demon secret realm as soon as possible. Little Purple shouldn't be a problem if she continues like this, right? Murong-Yu asked worriedly. Whether Little Purple was strong or not, whether she could grow up, Murong-Yu didn't care much about these. What he cared about was Little Purple's safety. Don't worry, she will be fine. Perhaps she will become a paragon in the future. The heavenly demoness explained, then waved her hand. Murong-Yu felt the scenery in front of him change. Then he found himself outside the heavenly demon secret realm. 1,000 years have already passed? Murong-Yu asked around and was shocked to find out that he had been in the heavenly demon secret realm for 1,000 years. 1,000 years was an extremely long time for mortals. However, to a saint, it was just the blink of an eye. Therefore, the pursuit of Murong-Yu in the holy world didn't fade with the passage of time. On the contrary, it became even more enthusiastic. Some of the sacred clan's experts who were more remote also rushed over. The human race became more and more lively. On the human side, the various major forces were still looking for Murong-Yu. However, Murong-Yu seemed to have disappeared into thin air, and no one knew where he was. The heaven-suppressing sect was extremely angry about this. This was because Murong-Yu hadn't returned Luda yet. Murong-Yu, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, we would have died in the heavenly demon secret realm. In the heavenly demon city, Peng Huamao and the others thanked Murong-Yu gratefully. They all knew that not long after they were taken into the Hichu Luo Shu by Murong-Yu, the others were kicked out. However, even more people died in the heavenly demon secret realm. Relatively speaking, the dragon phoenix flowers that Murong-Yu obtained were simply astronomical in value. Especially the 9th grade dragon phoenix flowers, they were priceless treasures. Because at that time, the black-clothed heavenly demoness had only created a mere 100. However, 1/10 of them were obtained by Murong-Yu. One had to know that the higher the grade of the dragon phoenix flower, the more effort the heavenly demoness had to put in. Just these 10 9th grade dragon phoenix flowers required a lot more blood essence than the other 90,000 dragon phoenix flowers. Naturally, their value was much higher. However, what Murong-Yu didn't know was that while he was depressed that he didn't obtain enough high-grade dragon phoenix flowers, the heavenly demoness in the heavenly demon secret realm was even more depressed than him. This was because Murong-Yu had obtained too many dragon phoenix flowers. If it wasn't because Murong-Yu had saved her and she was the Tao Lord of the Infernal Tao, she would have thought a way to leave the heavenly demon secret realm and snatch back all the dragon phoenix flowers that Murong-Yu obtained. The depressed heavenly demoness directly closed the heavenly demon secret realm. This way, even if Murong-Yu used the Hichu Luo Shu to teleport, he wouldn't be able to teleport in. When the heavenly demon secret realm opened again, the heavenly demoness would recover her cultivation. After sorting out the dragon phoenix flowers, Murong-Yu didn't sell them immediately. The value of the dragon phoenix flowers wouldn't become cheap because of the changes in time. On the contrary, they would only become more precious. Immediately, Murong-Yu began to consolidate his cultivation base. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. However, Peng Huamao and the others still hadn't returned. Murong-Yu didn't find this strange. After all, it would take a long time for them to sell the dragon phoenix flowers and purchase the medicinal herbs. On this day, Murong-Yu opened his eyes. This was because he realized that Peng Huamao and the others had returned. However, what made him frown slightly was that there seemed to be some uninvited guests who had followed them back. However, these people were more powerful than Peng Huamao and the others. This was because Peng Huamao and the others didn't realize that they were being followed. These guys were currently happily heading toward Murong-Yu's location. Morong thought about it and understood. Peng Huamao and the others must have been targeted when they were selling the dragon phoenix flowers. After all, the dragon phoenix flowers were too precious. Moreover, if they were to sell them in large numbers, it would be easier for someone to notice. Chapter 1587. Morong Yu, we've gathered all the herbs. Li Haoqian laughed heartily as soon as he came in. Zheng Ro and the others also had smiles on their faces. After all, gathering all the herbs was equivalent to stepping into the primal chaos ancestor saint realm. They all believed in Morong Yu and believed that Morong Yu wouldn't fail in refining pills. There's someone else. The experts who were secretly following Peng Huamao and the others were all moved and secretly spread the word. I wonder if this person has more dragon phoenix flowers? I hope he won't disappoint us. This person is only a peak saint king. When they saw Morong Yu, they were a little disappointed. If there's no more, just kill these people. They should have dozens of dragon phoenix flowers on them. They were all secretly communicating and weren't vigilant at all. In fact, they had been following Peng Huamao and the others for many days. Zheng Ro and the others hadn't discovered them, so they were so relaxed. However, what they didn't know was that Morong Yu had discovered them a long time ago. Morong Yu, shall we start refining pills now? Peng Huamao handed a spatial treasure to Morong Yu. It contained all the herbs needed to refine pills. Zheng Ro couldn't wait to ask. There's no hurry. There's an important guest following you back. If you don't come out, do you want me to invite you to come out? Morong Yu said indifferently, and then looked at the peerless experts hiding in the dark. Morong Yu had a rather heaven-defying ability. As long as there was an existence with power, even if they were invisible, he would be able to see the light of power on the other party. Unless the other party also covered up the light of power. There were many people in the holy world who had this ability. However, it didn't include these people who were following Zheng Ro and the others. Moreover, in addition to this ability, Morong Yu could also see the aura left behind in the void, in Morong Yu's eyes. These people couldn't hide at all. Hearing this, not only did Peng Huamao and the others' expressions change, but even the people following them were shocked. Even Peng Huamao and other peak ancestral saints were unable to discover them. But Morong Yu, a peak sage king, actually discovered them? Could it be that he was a peerless expert who had suppressed his realm? Or was there a peerless expert behind him? When they thought of this, they felt a chill in their hearts. In the next moment, they revealed themselves. Regardless of whether Morong Yu himself was a supreme expert or if there was a supreme expert behind him, since they had been discovered, they could only show themselves. Otherwise, who knew what would happen in the next moment? You're following me? Peng Huamao's expression turned ugly. Looking at the three of them, his eyes were filled with anger and fear. He was angry because they had followed him without him knowing. They were afraid because all three of them were primal chaos ancestor saints. Although the talents of their team were not bad, they did not have the strength to kill people above their level. He only had the strength of a peak ancestral saint. Although he had the ability to contend against a first-order primal chaos ancestor sage, he could only contend against them, and there could only be one of them. Now, there were three of them, and they did not seem to be the most ordinary primal chaos ancestor sage. Swoosh! Zheng Ro and the others came back to their senses. They gathered together and took out their saint artifacts and dharma treasures. They all looked at each other with vigilance. At this point, even a fool would know that they had been followed. They knew that the other party's goal was the dragon phoenix flower. Thinking of this, they could not help but feel regret. They should not have taken out so many dragon phoenix flowers in the same place. They should have gone to different places to take action. However, they were all eager to collect the medicinal herbs, and they also thought that others would have such a big harvest like them. Therefore, they were careless. We've been discovered by you. Everyone, the Star Moon Pavilion invites you for a gathering. What do you think? One of them, who seemed to be the leader, glanced at Peng Huamao and the others indifferently, and finally fixed his gaze on Morong Yu. Although Morong Yu was only a peak sage king, His intuition told him that Murong Yu was definitely not as simple as he looked on the surface. Star Moon Pavilion. Hearing this peerless powerhouse's words, the expressions of Peng Huamao and the rest became increasingly ugly. Murong Yu's brows were also slightly wrinkled. The human race's forces were like the sand in the Ganges River, innumerable. But this Star Moon Pavilion had a great reputation. The human race only had 10 great holy lands, but the peak forces whose strength was second only to the 10 great holy lands were more than 10. And this Star Moon Pavilion was the leader among the peak forces. In the sacred world, anyone who heard the 3 words Star Moon Pavilion would have a love-hate relationship with it. That was because Star Moon Pavilion was an assassin organization, one of the most powerful assassin organizations in the human race. If one had any enemies and did not have the ability but had sufficient financial resources, one could put a bounty on the Star Moon Pavilion's people, and they would settle it for you. And what they hated was that they might also be targeted by Star Moon Pavilion. Legend had it that Star Moon Pavilion's assassins were all extremely powerful. The missions they accepted virtually never failed. People targeted by them, no matter how powerful the other party was, Star Moon Pavilion would disdain to pay any price until they killed the other party. Peng Huamao's heart sank. They were merely itinerant cultivators. Being targeted by Star Moon Pavilion at this time, their outcome was worrying. The faces of Zheng Ro, Jiang Wenxian, and the rest were also incomparably grim. If there was someone present who was not afraid of Star Moon Pavilion, that would be Murong Yu. Murong Yu is not even afraid of true martial temple, this kind of holy land, so why would he be afraid of a mere Star Moon Pavilion? Hence, he said in a cold voice, not interested. The faces of the 3 Star Moon Pavilion assassins changed slightly. They did not expect that after they mentioned Star Moon Pavilion, Murong Yu would dare to not give them face. The reason why Murong Yu was so disdainful was because of 2 reasons. One was naturally that Murong Yu did not know the terror of Star Moon Pavilion at all. But these 3 assassins did not think that Murong Yu did not know of Star Moon Pavilion's existence. To a certain extent, Star Moon Pavilion was even more famous and terrifying than the 10 great holy lands. Then there was only one reason. Murong Yu's background was horrifying and did not fear Star Moon Pavilion at all. Peng Huamao and the rest also looked at Murong Yu with incomparable shock. However, they immediately came to a realization. Since Murong Yu was a soul sage and also an alchemy grandmaster, how could he be an ordinary itinerant cultivator? How could such a genius appear in an itinerant cultivator? He must be a disciple that was heavily nurtured by some major force. He might even be someone from the 10 great holy lands. After this thought appeared in their minds, a trace of hope rose in Peng Huamao and the rest. No one wanted to die. Today, you have to go whether you want to or not. One of the assassins was impatient. He took a step forward, turned into a ray of flowing light, and disappeared on the spot. In a flash, he had already appeared in front of Murong Yu. Then, he swiftly threw a punch at Murong Yu. Just a stage 2 chaotic ancestor saint. You are simply courting death. A cold, murderous intent flashed past Murong Yu's brows. He was never someone who took the initiative to find trouble. But to those who took the initiative to find trouble with him, he always had a uniform response. Kill them directly. Bang! The assassins of Star Moon Tower attacked so quickly that Peng Huamao and the rest could not react in time. In the blink of an eye, Peng Huamao and the rest heard a loud bang. At the same time, a cloud of blood mist exploded. Hence, Peng Huamao and the rest's faces changed drastically. They thought that Murong Yu had been killed by the assassins of Star Moon Tower. The remaining 2 assassins of Star Moon Tower crossed their arms and looked at the cloud of blood mist with a smile. So what if Murong Yu had a strong background? Who were the people of Star Moon Tower afraid of? They even dared to assassinate a supreme martial artist. Not to mention that Murong Yu was just a king sage. The cloud of blood mist dissipated quickly, and a figure slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Impossible! Immediately, the remaining 2 assassins from Star Moon Tower cried out in surprise. The person who appeared in front of them was not their companion, but Murongyu. In other words, their companion, the Stage 2 chaotic ancestor Saint Assassin, had been killed by Murongyu. What a terrifying ability! Peng Huamao and the rest were shocked. They only knew that Murongyu was a soul saint, but they did not know that Murongyu's cultivation was so terrifying. They really did not recognize Mount Tai. This thought flashed across the minds of Peng Huamao and the rest like lightning. The more time they spent with Murongyu, the more Murongyu surprised them. In fact, this was a process that all of Murongyu's friends had to go through. Which of his friends was not shocked at the beginning and then numb to the shock until they got used to it? Now, do you still want to invite us to Star Moon Tower? Murongyu asked indifferently as he looked at the two assassins of Star Moon Tower, who were shocked. The two assassins of Star Moon Tower shook their heads. They were really shocked by Murongyu. However, they soon realized what was going on. After all, they were powerful assassins, and their psychological quality was extremely strong. Swoosh! Swoosh! Without prior consultation, they made their moves. They used their strongest killing move right away. It's a good opportunity to try out my soul attack after advancing. Heavenly Annihilation. Murongyu sneered and used a soul attack that was a group attack. How terrifying was a 5-star soul attack? The two assassins of Stage 2 Chaotic Ancestor Saint did not even have time to react before their souls were crushed. They were killed instantly. They did not have any ability to resist. This was the terrifying part of Soul Saint. Especially when Murongyu's cultivation had reached a higher realm, his soul attack was even more terrifying. As a Saint King, he had killed 3 powerful primal chaos ancestral saints with ease. This ability, this combat power, suddenly, Peng Huamao seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Murongyu in shock. Murongyu, you can't be the Murongyu who got the classic of mountains and seas, right? Such terrifying combat power, a soul saint, and the same name, Murongyu felt helpless. He had only changed his appearance and did not change his name. These people's reactions were too slow, right? Chapter 1588. Murongyu. Are you really that Murongyu from the Mountain Sea Secret Realm? The one who dared to go against the entire world? Everyone looked at Murongyu excitedly. Li Haoqian walked up to Murongyu excitedly and looked him up and down as if he wanted to see through Murongyu. Murongyu nodded. At the same time, he returned to his original appearance. Zheng Ro and the others became even more excited. Murongyu was surprised by their reactions. He was now the enemy of the entire world. Even sovereigns could attack him. In that case, shouldn't those people stay as far away from him as possible? However, Zheng Ro and the others seemed to like him very much. They weren't afraid of being implicated by Murongyu at all. Before Murongyu could say anything, Zheng Ro smiled and said, Murongyu, you still don't know how the people of the holy world view you, do you? Murongyu shook his head. He really didn't know how people viewed him. Everyone he came into contact with was an enemy. The only thing those people had was greed. I don't know what the disciples of the major factions are thinking, but for us independent cultivators and disciples of small factions, we admire you greatly. It's because you're strong, because you dared to go against the world, because you weren't defeated by power. It can be said that you're already a hero in our hearts. A great hero. Hero? Murongyu shook his head. He really didn't know that people viewed him as a hero. He didn't do all this because he wanted to win the reputation of being a weakling. In fact, he dared to go against the entire world because he didn't want to die. However, in the eyes of outsiders, that wasn't the case. However, to Murongyu, this could only be beneficial. One had to know that there were countless factions in the holy world, but most of them were independent cultivators. If Murongyu could gain the trust of these rogue cultivators, then it would only be beneficial to her. Murongyu, if you were to shout out now, a high number of saints will definitely join your force, Peng Huamao said with a chuckle. Now, many people had become Murongyu's fans. One had to know that there were many exceptional geniuses among these people. If Shenzhen opened up the recruitment of disciples, there would definitely be a large number of powerhouses joining. However, The loyalty of these people had yet to be tested, no matter how much they worshipped Murongyu. Once Murongyu lost his power, their worship of Murongyu would not be as strong. He didn't even worship Murongyu anymore. Therefore, Murongyu would not recruit Shenzhen's disciple for the time being. After all, there were many people who ascended from the god world. Most importantly, they were absolutely loyal to Murongyu. Strength was not a problem. As long as Murongyu had enough resources, the strength of Shenzhen's disciples would increase rapidly. Murongyu shook his head and smiled. Forget about this. It's only temporary. All right, what kind of pill do you want to refine? 6 Yang Profound Saint Pill, Peng Hua Mao said solemnly. Murongyu's eyes lit up. He had heard of this pill and had been looking for it. It was just that he hadn't found the pill formula. It was a pill that he urgently needed now. This pill had no use. Its only use was to increase the comprehension of ancestor sages. It could increase the chances of a peak ancestor sage breaking through to primal chaos ancestor sage. As long as there was a large number of 6 Yang Profound Saint Pills, there was no realm that couldn't be broken through. Of course, ordinary people couldn't casually break through to the next realm. Once they failed, it would be very harmful to them. Therefore, ordinary people would only choose to break through to the next realm after reaching the peak in all aspects. And if they failed, they would need a very long time to recover to the peak of their realm. And every time they failed, the chances of breaking through to the next realm would be smaller. This is the pill formula. As he spoke, Peng Huamao handed a jade slip to Murongyu. Right now, he'd already given all the medicinal ingredients and pills to Murongyu without asking for anything in return. If it was someone else, they might not be so generous. They would definitely need the other party to make some promises. Otherwise, who could guarantee that the other party wouldn't escape after getting these two things? However, they believed in Murongyu. It wasn't just because they had heard of Murongyu long ago. It was also because of the time that they had spent with Murongyu. After glancing at the jade slip, Murongyu realized that refining this pill wasn't difficult, but it was very complicated. And as long as there was a mistake in one of the steps, the refining would fail. But for a pill saint like him, it was nothing. Besides, even if he failed, there was still the Yin-Yang Cauldron. Zheng Ro and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the expression on Murongyu's face. They were really afraid that Murongyu couldn't refine this pill. And this pill was their only hope of breaking through to the chaotic ancestor sage realm. If even Murongyu, an alchemy grandmaster, couldn't refine it, where could they find a more powerful alchemy master? In fact, if they knew that Murongyu wasn't just an alchemy grandmaster, but an alchemy saint, would they still be worried? Murongyu had refined a pill with a 95% compatibility at the alchemy conference of the True Martial Sacred Hall and reached the alchemy saint realm. However, the news was sealed and only spread among the major forces. Peng Huamao and the others didn't have the right to know. This pill is very simple. It will be refined soon. I believe you guys will be able to break through to the chaotic ancestor sage realm soon. Murongyu said to Peng Huamao and the others with a smile. Peng Huamao's face revealed a hint of worry at this time. Murongyu, Star Moon Pavilion isn't just a peak force, but also one of the top assassin organizations. I believe they will send someone soon. Although Peng Huamao didn't say it explicitly, everyone present knew what he meant. He was worried that the people from Star Moon Pavilion would come for revenge. And Murongyu's strength was all built on the Mountain Sea Mystic Realm. In Heavenly Devil City, Murongyu had no advantage at all. This meant that Murongyu wanted to leave Heavenly Devil City as soon as possible. Murongyu's gaze swept across the faces of Peng Huamao and the others. He discovered that they all had worried expressions, and their eyes were filled with sincerity. They wouldn't persuade Murongyu to leave Heavenly Devil City, because they were worried that no one would refine pills for them after Murongyu was killed. Instead, they were truly worried about Murongyu's safety. Do you really think that I dare to go against the entire world only because of the Mountain Sea Mystic Realm? Murongyu said indifferently. Then, his figure flashed, and he disappeared on the spot. Murong Yu is a real expert. He's not hypocritical or pretentious. With his status, he would disdain to be friends with us. However, he doesn't have any intention of being superior to others. Peng Huamao and the others were relieved. Murong Yu is naturally not a stupid person. If he dared to continue staying here, he naturally had confidence. Captain, doesn't Murong Yu have Shengzhen's force under his command? We have always joined forces. It's because we can't stand some disgusting people in those forces. However, I heard that Murong Yu's force is different from other forces. There are no old people suppressing newcomers. As long as they are worthy and loyal, Murong Yu will focus on nurturing them. Jiang Wenxian, who had been expressionless all this time, suddenly said. Peng Huamao and the others all looked at Jiang Wenxian. Their hearts were all moved. Big Sister Huaqian, are you saying that we should join Shengzhen? Zheng Ro asked straightforwardly. Isn't Shengzhen the force that we want to join? If we want to join Shengzhen, I'll be the first to agree. The big Li Haoqian smiled foolishly, but his expression was incomparably resolute. What do you guys think? Peng Huamao and the others looked at the other team members. The other team members also expressed their decision to join Shengzhen. While they were discussing whether to join Shengzhen, Murong Yu had already begun to refine pills. The Sixyang Profound Divine Pill was a very high-grade pill. In principle, Murong Yu could not refine it, even if he was an alchemy saint. In order to refine pills, other than the ability to refine pills, one also needed the support of one's own strength. Otherwise, if one did not have enough strength, they would not be able to continue refining pills. Naturally, refining pills would be declared a failure. However, although Murong Yu is only a peak Saint King now, his combat strength and strength were comparable to an ordinary primal chaos ancestral saint. There was no pressure to refine the Sixyang Profound Divine Pill. Therefore, after half a day, the first cauldron of Sixyang Profound Divine Pill was out. However, Murong Yu was somewhat dissatisfied, because the compatibility of these pills was too low. Although they had all reached 90% compatibility, none of them had reached 95% compatibility. Next, Murong Yu continued to refine pills. However, even after he had refined all the medicinal herbs, there were only a few pills that had achieved a 95% compatibility. On average, each of Peng Huamao and the others only had a few Sixyang Profound Divine Pills with 95% compatibility. This was not because Murong Yu's alchemy skills had dropped. In fact, it was because the Sixyang Profound Divine Pill was too high grade, and Murong Yu's cultivation level was too low. Refining 10 sets of pills took Murong Yu a total of 8 days. On this day, Murong Yu appeared in front of Peng Huamao and the others again. Immediately, Peng Huamao and the others' gazes gathered on Murong Yu's face. However, to their disappointment, Murong Yu's expression was calm. It was impossible to tell whether the pill refining had succeeded or failed. Therefore, they were all a little uneasy. If Murong Yu failed in refining pills, don't look like that. Are you doubting my alchemy ability? Murong Yu laughed. Hearing this, Peng Huamao and the others' faces were filled with ecstasy. At the same time, Murong Yu waved his hand, and 10 jade bottles flew toward them. As for how these pills were to be distributed, it was their business. Murong Yu is not qualified to distribute these pills. These are pills with 95% compatibility. Suddenly, the big man Li Haoqian exclaimed. His face was filled with disbelief. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.